I'm going to give the mic first to Dev to make his case for court packing, and then we're going to let Ryan have his opening statement, and then we're going to get into it. Dev, go ahead.
Okay, well, if you've seen my my video on court packing, you already know my stance, but the TLDR of it is, I think that justice needs to be done upon the Republicans for them stealing the Supreme Court pick under Obama. And it's as simple as that. Short and sweet.
Okay. Well,
okay. Since it was so short, can I ask some clarifying questions?
Sure.
Just before because I don't want to talk about things that don't matter. You offered some other rationales in your video, but you're sticking to just that one tonight.
Well, the other rationales they're not as important as this one.
Okay.
Like
no,
if those rationales didn't exist, this one would still be important.
Okay.
This would still carry it as well. Because I think the other rationales were like the 13 circuits and the the English common law tradition, and that should be important to conservatives who want to conserve tradition, but it's not the main point.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna. If these are the points you want to talk about, then I'm not going to bother addressing them. That's fine. So okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's the heart of it, in the spirit of keeping this short and sweet. I've been on Whick's show and taken the position that what the Republicans did with Merrick Garland was a norms violation and problematic as such. So I'm not walking that back. I've always thought that was a problem, even though I liked the justice that came out of it. Like that doesn't make it not a norm violation. The problem with court packing is court packing opens, and by court packing, I mean adding seats to the Supreme Court, opens a can of worms that what McConnell and the Republicans did does not open, which is the risk of kind of like infinite regression, where you just keep adding to the Supreme Court and you get up into a cycle of reprisals. And while we've lost a lot of norms in our country over the last 15, 20 years, there are some norms that I would call load-bearing norms, meaning they are the sort of norms that they actually do hold up the entire constitutional order. There's a lot of them that you can lose. Like, it turns out you can open the door to partisan gerrymandering, and I don't think it's going to destroy the country. This one's a load-bearing norm. If we open this can of worms, I'm not sure how we recover, and I can get into the reasons why I think this is very different. And because of that, if the Republicans, for example, did to the Democrats what the Republicans did to them and withheld advice and consent from a nominee for purely partisan reasons, I'd say, man, I said it was a bad thing when the Republicans did it. I'm going to say it's a bad thing when the Democrats do it, but I understand tit for tat. I get it. I understand why they're doing that. But this is a court packing would be both an escalation and one which would lead us into a situation that would fundamentally risk the country in a way that very few policy proposals or norm violations could. And that's the reason why court packing must be rejected. And I have no reason to believe that you support the kind of the broader constellation of policies that I took issue with Pisco for. So I'm not going to talk about those unless you'd like to tell me.
Which policies were those? Just so I'm clear.
Oh, the broader constellation that kind of led to the confrontation I had with Pisco was he supports breaking the filibuster, which means that you could pack the court with 51 votes instead of 60, then packing the court to 13, then packing the Senate by recognizing additional states that would be reliable Democratic votes, which you can do without amending the Constitution. If you break the filibuster, it's just a bare majority, which would essentially lock the Republicans out of power and allow appointing of essentially judges who could, I don't think Pisco would admit this point, but who could or would rewrite the Constitution from the bench, because there'd be nothing Republicans could do about it. So that broader constellation of policies is much, much worse than even just court packing is. And if I think court packing is very bad, that one's well out of bounds. And I would say the position that Pisco holds is akin to the position that John Eastman held about Mike Pence deciding the presidential election in 2020, which is, I think, inappropriate position for a lawyer to hold. But I have no reason to believe that you support all of that.
Right. I mean, I don't really know Pisco that well. I've talked to him a handful of times. I wouldn't necessarily say that we're politically aligned because I think he gives far too much deference to some of the communists in his midst, and I think that's a problem. However, when it comes to this stuff, I'm not sure. I'm thinking about it. It's, and you know what? The only question I really have that's kind of on the tip of my tongue is, if the Democrats were to pack the court, is that illegal?
No, it's not illegal. It's not. That's not the question.
Well, no, that's my question, right?
It's
and
not.
Since it is my question, though. That's why I'm.
Yeah, it's not illegal.
Right. So, what's the problem?
Okay. Well, how about?
I mean, they can do it, right?
Yeah, but how about this? It's legal for everyone to do it. So, for example, the Republicans have, if they wanted to, they have the political power tomorrow to do the following. They could break the filibuster, then use the broken filibuster. There's an island or a few islands that are disputed between Mexico and Texas. They're in the Gulf. You know what those look like to me? A state. Recognize those islands as a state with like 15 people. Now they have extra votes in the Senate. Pack the Supreme Court to 13 or 15 or 17 or whatever the number is. They could appoint any justices they wanted. Justice Mike Lindell, Justice Alex Jones. Like, there's no constitutional limit on who they could appoint. And the Democrats have no numeric ability to stop them from doing it. They could do whatever they wanted. And you know what? If you took all those steps, it would be 20 years before the Democrats could regain power because of how badly you would reshape the political map. I would call that overtly tyrannical and a problem. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a bad thing to do. But I don't think it's better if the Democrats plan to do it. I think it's a bad thing to do. So, I mean, I guess my question is, it's legal for the Republicans to do that. Is the legality something that makes you think that it's a thing we should support?
At this point, I think so, yeah, because the Republicans have behaved absolutely fucking terribly, and they need to be completely fought with every possible measure. So here's the thing: I actually don't believe. No, I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer it. Okay. So because you said that the Republicans currently have the political will to do this.
No, I didn't say they have the political will. I said they have the political power.
Okay, right. Well, similar enough. I don't think they actually do.
No, that's totally different.
Well, no, okay, hear me out. Because if they actually did, they would have. All right? I believe that
Dev,
yes,
you're fundamentally misunderstanding my point.
Let Dev finish his statement.
Sure,
Go ahead.
Okay.
What do you believe, Dev, please?
So, like a couple of days ago, maybe it was a week ago, I don't remember the exact timeline, but Trump straight up said on his Truth Social that he wants to turn the SAVE Act into an omnibus bill. He's ordering the Republicans to get rid of the filibuster themselves. Trump's issuing all these orders. He wants this shit done. And it turns out that even though the Republicans actually hold all these offices and all these seats, he doesn't actually have enough of a coalition to order the Senate to do what he wants. If he did, the Republicans would be doing it right now. So I don't actually believe this point of yours that, oh, the Republicans could do this. No, they can't. No, they cannot.
Dev, your question, this is why I said you misunderstood me. I said politically they have the power, meaning if they had the will, it is legal for them to do everything I just said. It would not be illegal. Sure, yeah. They could do it. You asked me earlier, you said, my question is it legal? And if it's legal, the implication was that it's okay. And I'm saying it is legal for the Republicans to do a vastly tyrannical scheme that would lock Democrats out of power for a generation at least. Do you think it's a good thing for them to do it? They ought to do it just because it's legal.
I mean, no, but that's because the Republicans actually are a tyrannical power at this point in the United States Republic.
But Dev,
yes, they absolutely are. The Democrats aren't.
Dev,
there are two different moral standards here.
But Dev, the Republicans, as you just pointed out, though they have the political power, are not doing this. So the very same scheme that Pisco is laying out, this kind of like grander scheme, is something they could choose to do, but they are not doing it because it's such a dangerous norm violation and because it's so overtly tyrannical. So saying that the Democrats should do something that's so tyrannical that the evil, quote unquote, barbarian Republicans won't do it is kind of a weird point. Like, how can you fight tyranny and fascism by doing a thing that's so awful that even your political enemies who you think are limitless in their deprivation won't do?
Listen, they're not choosing not to do it because it's a norm violation. They're not doing it because they can't. That's really it. Trump can't get the votes together to do all the things
Why
he's been
can't
asking
he?
the Republicans to do.
Why can't he?
Because there's just enough Republicans who understand that basically their entire side of the aisle is rotten down to the core. And even though they're cowards, they're hoping if they just keep their eyes closed until Trump leaves office, hopefully in 2029, that things will go back to normal. Unfortunately, things won't go back to normal until the Republicans have been punished for all of the things they've done.
So the irony of this, right, is that, you know, you are saying that the Democrats should do something that the evil Republicans in your mind won't do because some of the Republicans think it's a very bad and dangerous idea, even if it's not all of them. Now, I could quibble with you, but even if I just accept your articulation of why the Republicans aren't doing it, that means you are advocating for a step that is so tyrannical that even the Republicans who you despise won't do it. It doesn't strike you as a problem to advocate for your side to do something that's so tyrannical that the other side that you hate and despise won't touch?
You had your hand up, Whick? Did you?
No, answer that question and then.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's mainly because the Republicans, they just don't have to do these extreme things. They already hold all the levers of power. Trump's still doing tons of ridiculous bullshit without stepping up to these extremes. The Republicans don't have to do this stuff to do all the institutional damage they're currently doing to the United States.
Oh, no, but if they did this, they could do all kinds of stuff. They could pass the SAVE Act. They could do all kinds of alterations to the way that voting is done in the country. They could appoint judges who are going to interpret the Constitution more consistently in favor of Trump. He lost the National Guard case. He lost the tariff case. He lost the abortion pill case. Those things could all be fixed with court packing. He could,
which is why Trump is trying to push it. Yes.
He's not. He's actually
he is literally. He posted several times that he wants them to do this.
The plan that I outlined, which was much more extreme than just filibuster, nuking the filibuster. It was nuke the filibuster, expand the Senate and pack the Senate by adding states for partisan purposes, pack the Supreme Court with justices who are going to do what you want them to do, plus extra stuff that we could get into. That is a extraordinarily extreme tyrannical view. And by your own admission earlier, you said the Republicans aren't doing it. So yes, the Republicans aren't doing it because it's tyrannical. I don't think you can have it both ways. I don't think you can both say the Republicans aren't doing it because they know it's tyrannical and they're not going to do it, and the Republicans are currently doing it because President Trump said something about the filibuster. I think that what I'm trying to square up for you is that this package that you are endorsing, I'm surprised you're endorsing it because it's a crazy thing to endorse, but this package that you have opted to endorse is so vile. It is literally the end of democracy. It's a recipe for one-party power, and nobody should co-sign on this. It's a crazy thing to co-sign on to.
Ryan, your democracy is already done. All right, it's over at this point. You have a vice president who's currently in office who said he would have listened to the Eastman plan. All right. So as soon as the next presidential election happens, you're going to have Vance in that seat, and he's going to be presented probably with more false slates of electors, and he's going to be like, "Oh, well, I don't know, but maybe I should actually follow the plan this time." Things are already at that point. Okay, okay. I've watched some of your stuff, and I have no idea how you don't understand this. Maybe you just kind of live in La La Land or something. I don't know, but things are already cooked. All right, it's done. At this point, the Democrats must simply lock the Republicans out of power for a generation. Okay, it has to happen until MAGA is ripped out of the American Republic, root and stem. There can be no peace.
Okay, so if that is the position, and this is what I've been saying for the longest time, which is that I don't think we're there. I actually am much more optimistic about the resilience of our republic and the resilience of the people in our Constitution. But if we are where you say we are, which is a crazy fucking thing to say publicly, but if we are where you say we are, then why complain about norm violations at all? Like what's a norm if we're at the black pill end zone of the end times, where people are just going to be doing open partisan warfare with no limits forever? Who gives a fuck about norms at that point? Why shouldn't the Republicans do all these things I've outlined? Because they have political power right now. Like, if only for expediency, like if only for your own self-preservation, isn't it kind of dumb to say that publicly? Because if the Republicans believed you, if the Republicans believed the thing you just said, then it would be totally rational for them to do the most tyrannical, diabolical things imaginable. And there's fuck all the Democrats can do about it. They have no power to stop it. So I guess I'm saying, what is the point you're making here? Like, you seem to be advocating for the Republicans to do the thing that you hope they don't do.
Well, no, I'm not advocating for that, because the Republicans are bad and the Democrats are good. The Democrats should take power back and do the right thing. Okay. The Republicans shouldn't. But hold on, this is a moral argument. I mentioned legality before specifically because, yes, the Republicans can do all these things, and it would be rational for them in their position to do all these things. But I don't need to care about what's rational for the Republican position, because the Republicans are moral lepers. So they do simply need to be crushed. That's that.
So your position is simply rule for thee, not for me. That's what your position boils down to?
I mean, in the way that an aggressor shouldn't be using violence, but a defender should, yes.
Okay. Well, if your position is that the Democrats get to be tyrannical because Republicans bad, but the Republicans ought not be tyrannical because Republicans bad, which seems to be your position, you might see why I called that tyrannical during modern day debate. By the way, I appreciate the candor. I think that is the position. I think Peace goes too chicken shit to admit it, but that is the position. And I appreciate you being honest about it. But that's why I called it tyrannical on modern day debate, because it is. It is an overt call to tyrannical imposition of power of one side against the other. And I actually don't even hear you disagreeing with that. I think you agree with that. It's just you think it's good to do tyrannical things.
It's tyrannical in the sense that the American revolutionaries were tyrannical against the British when they threw them off.
Okay, so that's a wild statement, but your point is,
it's absolutely okay. You're an educated man. I'm sure you've read the Constitution. I'm sure you've read at least some of the Federalist Papers, right?
There's a good chance.
Of course, yes. Now, what was the purpose of the Second Amendment?
You don't need to go to the Second Amendment. Go to the Declaration. It's better.
No. I'm going to the Second Amendment because I actually like this one. Because you know what? I've hung out in so many libertarian spaces, and during COVID and even before, you had like these memes, and it was like George Washington wearing sunglasses, and he's like, if it were me and my homies, we'd be stacking bodies right by now. And I totally respected those memes because they were honest and straightforward, and they made no qualms about it. The Second Amendment is for shooting tyrants.
Yeah, no,
that's what it's for.
That's why I say you don't need to go to the Second Amendment. You go to the Declaration. It says, to secure these rights, meaning our natural rights, our God-given rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So there's, right. It does go on to say,
and I just want to make it clear, we've taken a little bit of a turn from court packing, and now we have entered another territory. If you guys want to continue in this territory, we can.
I actually think this is illuminating, because I think people who watch my stream know why I did what I did in the modern day debate, but I think this is actually a good explanation of why I did what I did in the modern day debate, and with Peace Code, because the reason is, when somebody approaches you and says, I think I am justified in imposing tyrannical power upon you, the correct response is not, let me see your syllogism, let's talk about your argument. The correct response is, get fucked, tyrant. Right? It is not logical to engage in logical debate with somebody who wants to tyrannize you. And Dev, I appreciate your honesty, but all I'm hearing from you is that you feel justified in tyrannizing people who believe the things that I believe.
No, the issue is that Trump is the tyrant. He is the one currently doing the tyranny. Yes, and I'm correct. Says me, I'm correct.
Well, okay, but here's
well, let me put this way. We both agree
that
let
Dev go for a minute. Let Dev go for a minute.
Yeah, we both agree Trump tried to steal 2020, right? Like that's not in debate at all. We both agree on this.
Yeah, I've never defended Trump with the false light of electors scheme. I've in fact,
right, yeah.
Actually, do you know my voting history? I just it might be helpful.
Yeah, I think I know.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen a bunch of your stuff. Yeah,
I vastly preferred Trump in 2024, but did not vote for him because of the Eastman stuff.
Right. So that makes him a tyrant. Period. Like we're already past that line. He tried to steal an election. He failed, but now he's a tyrant.
Well, you
can't be like, oh no, he's not. Oh, it's subjective. Oh, it's just your opinion. No. He's a tyrant.
I agree.
He's trying to steal the election.
I found that disqualifying. But do you disagree that he was validly elected in 2024?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so he was validly elected in 2024.
The Americans elected a tyrant. Yes.
Okay, I have not seen him do anything in this term that remotely approaches the level of tyranny of the prescriptions that you're describing. Not even close. So,
go ahead now.
Are you sure?
Yeah, not even. I don't think I've seen any. Like, keep in mind what.
I mean, so hold on, just real quick, because now we're getting into the conversation you didn't actually want to have on Twitter. You dodged it like 5 times when I said let's talk about Trump's corruption. Because holy shit,
are corruption and tyranny the same thing?
No, but they're linked for sure.
No,
they're for sure.
They're actually rather distinct.
Okay. Do you think that there are tyrants who are completely incorruptible?
They
go hand in hand.
It is possible. It's not. They are not logically entailed or related. They are. I think.
Can you name one?
I think they are often correlated. No, I'd agree with you. They're often correlated. My point is they are not the same thing. You could be tyrannical without being corrupt.
Can you name an example of this ever happening?
Probably not. I mean, I think it's unlikely, but my point is they are not the same thing, and I think you'd agree with that.
Just for my edification, would you say that lots of corruption might be a sign that someone might be a tyrant? Like that could be something like, oh, there's a ton of corruption here. Maybe we should look into whether this is a tyrant or not.
No, not really. I mean,
no?
it would depend on what it depends on what they're doing with power. Like in the Teapot Dome scandal with Harding, like back in the day, right? There were obvious bribes. That was proven that there were bribes, and those bribes were used to secure, to use the power of the federal government to benefit private individuals. It was like case proven corruption, like proven at like a level of a court standard corruption. I don't think that Harding was being tyrannical or that his subordinates were being tyrannical. I think they were being corrupt. They are different things.
The issue is, and I'm coming at this from my realm of education because I was working on a political history degree before dropping out to do YouTube. In fact, it was a master's degree. But so from what I understand of history, is that when you have corrupt politicians, corrupt leaders, that is inherently tyrannical, specifically because when they engage in their corruption, they are overriding certain, we might call them democratic or public, not just norms, but mechanisms, right? So for example, the free market should function such that you have like buyers and sellers, you have contracts, you have bidders. And however, if you're in power and you're giving preferential contracts to your friends, for example, and you're not having an open bid on those contracts, that is both being corrupt because you're benefiting your friends, and it's being tyrannical because you're undermining these public institutions. So these two things actually do historically go hand in hand. And Trump, by the way, is the most corrupt president of my lifetime, and it's not even fucking close.
But pause. See, the reason that I think there's a huge disconnect here is you could have a administration that's rife with corruption, and they do nothing to change the way democracy functions. They do nothing to change the way the vote works. And then they eventually get voted out of power. They're not tyrannical, they're corrupt. When you're tyrannical, it means that you are removing from the people the ability to govern themselves, right? That's what tyrannical is. I haven't seen the Trump administration do anything that remotely reaches the level of tyranny that you've described. The thing that I would agree with you that approaches this is the Eastman scheme, which is why I didn't vote for him. But in terms of this current administration, this time around, I have not seen anything like that. And because he's a second-term president, I don't think that's going to happen again. But by the way, if it does, you can rely on me showing up, breaking party lines, and being on your side, because I am opposed to tyranny. So, but the fact that I guess the point I'm making is how could you possibly justify the level of tyranny you're talking about? And I've seen this very commonly on the left.
Yep.
Like people are. I remember I watched a Destiny stream and I was aghast where he said, like, the problem with the Trump administration is that they won the vote and they are legitimately elected, which is worse than Nazi Germany. Because at least in Nazi Germany, you could say that there was some kind of power grab. Here, the problem is that they got elected, and we need to find a way to punish them, even if it's not legal to do so.
It's just a housekeeping thing. I need to check my audio. People are saying I'm blowing them out when I talk. Okay. How is it, gang? Okay, sorry. Go. I didn't mean, but like everyone's yelling at me at this point. So go ahead.
Okay. I hope that's improved. Yeah. I guess so. Again, to circle back to the court packing topic, like if the point was that the Republicans did this thing with Garland and that was fucked up, so we should do the same thing back. I don't think I'd even take that debate prompt. I think I'd have to concede that one. Like, I think, that probably would happen. But that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about something totally different.
So just that was very long, and there's like 3 distinct topics in there, and I really only have the third one still in my brain. Sorry. So you're basically saying that just so I know, I understand what you said. You're saying that should the Democrats come into power and they hold the Senate, but it's still a Republican president, they should simply not vote on a new Supreme Court justice in the same way that McConnell did.
Yeah, I mean,
basically give them a taste of their own medicine.
Would it piss me off? Would I be like, shit, that's bad? Yeah, it would piss me off. I'd say that's bad, but like I think they're justified in doing it. I think the norm's been broken, and the thing about that, which is withholding advice and consent, is like the constitutional framework, is that it doesn't create open-ended court packing. Like the real danger of adding to the court is, let's say you guys pack to 13, and let's say you keep the Republicans out of power for like 20 years. When the Republicans get back in, they're going to pack to 20. And then when the Democrats get back in, they're going to repack. And when you do that 3, 4, 5 times, the entire concept of the rule of law, the entire concept of there being a governing constitution is basically gone. Like we're washing out the very fact that we have a constitution at all. And we're basically leaning into this glaring loophole where we can amend the Constitution from the bench in a way that we don't have political will to do through the proper amendment process. So I think that's very, very dangerous. But yeah, to answer your question, if the Democrats withheld advice and consent from a Republican nominee for purely political reasons, I don't think that would. I think that the toothpaste is out of the tube on that one, as it were.
Okay. The issue is that it's no longer just about the one McConnell seat, because there's since been a downstream effect that's happened ever since then, right? So if you're okay with the Democrats refusing to vote on a single hypothetical seat, would you be okay with the Democrats refusing to vote on let's say 2 hypothetical seats?
Oh no,
or 3 hypothetical seats.
I'd go further. I don't think that norm exists anymore. I think that we can and should expect that if the president does not have the Senate, that neither party in the foreseeable future is granting advice and consent. Like I don't think it's happening in the future. Maybe if it was like a really down the middle justice, it might happen. It is possible, but I think it is very likely that if the Democrats take the Senate in the midterms and Trump has a nominee, they will say fuck off and they will not nominate. They will not give advice and consent on that nominee. I think that is now the status quo. I think and again, it would piss me off, and I'd say I'd be pissed off about it, but I would like turnabout is fair play and all. I don't think the Democrats would be unjustified doing that.
Why would you be pissed off about it?
because I am not politically neutral. I'd like my side to win. I like originalist judges. I like Federalist Society judges. I'd like more of them on the court. Like, I think the country's better off with that kind of court. So yeah, it would piss me off politically, but it's not going to be the kind of norm violation that I'm saying is like risking the country. It would be sharp elbowed, borderline fucked up politics, but like, it's sharp elbowed, borderline fucked up politics is kind of the name of the game. It's kind of like partisan gerrymandering. Like, in the abstract, I don't like partisan gerrymandering, but at this point, I get why both parties are
Just
doing it.
real quick, thank you for the raid, Destiny. Welcome to the stream. Anyway, continue.
Were you still going?
No, all yours.
Oh, okay. I mean, I do find it kind of surprising that you would be surprised that I also want my side to win then. Especially since, by the way, like, until Trump pulled that stunt in 2020, I was not a partisan Democrat supporter. Like, I first came to prominence on YouTube in the very small way that I came to prominence, being an anti-SJW, being an associate of Sargon's, talking about cultural issues, and I still don't like woke shit in video games and all that. But you know what? I will take all the woke shit in video games in the world if it means that Trump and MAGA have been purged from the Republican Party, because you know what? Cultural issues aren't the same thing as political issues.
So what are the limits you place on yourself? Like, what would you not support in order to achieve that goal?
At this point, next to nothing. I think the Americans are very close to an actual hot war.
Okay, well then at least
an actual civil war.
Because I don't want to get Whick demonetized, but
there's already dead people in the streets, for fuck's sake. The Americans are there.
You accused me of moral F slurring when I called Pisco a tyrant and said I was trying to save my country. I think at this point, since you've said that there is basically nothing that you would not support in order to punish the Republicans, we can at least agree that to the extent that you and Pisco share the same positions, I was correct in saying that this is an overtly tyrannical position, which is probably why I was moral F-slurring, as you put it, in the face of overt tyranny.
Can I ask Dev a question on that? If you think
just real quick, though, you keep saying it's tyrannical.
It's obviously tyrannical.
It's not. It's overthrowing a tyrant. Violence is not inherently tyrannical. All right. When you're actually fighting a pure fucking evil faction, which, by the way, is what MAGA has become. Yeah. When you actually start fighting them and you're like, oh shit, it's actually a war now. We got to fight. That's not tyrannical. That's war.
Okay. Now I have a question, though.
I bet you do,
okay.
Whick.
So if you think that we are at this point in America, would it be morally justified? I'm just asking, are you being rhetorical, or do you actually believe we are about to go to civil war? Would political assassinations be morally justified at this point?
Do you value your channel?
Okay, that's all I need to know. Okay, carry on.
Well, I
don't want to fuck you over with. Like, what do you want me to say?
Yeah. So look, here's the thing. I'm obviously not going to convince Dev, and I'm certainly not going to try, given what he just said. But if you're watching this conversation and you're like, why did Ryan react the way he did to Pisco's positions? That seems unlike him. He doesn't normally take that tone with people. What was Ryan doing? Why did he have that reaction? Look at this conversation and really think about what's being said here tonight, and think to yourself, does that really sound like a sane position? Or maybe ought we say, fuck that. That does sound a bit on the tyrannical side, saying that there is no limit on what I would do to punish the opposition. That does seem like a little bit of a problem.
Just to be clear, Pisco's not here, and he can answer for himself, but I'm pretty sure Pisco does not hold the position that Dev just elucidated there. I'm almost certain. I could be wrong.
No, I mean, this conversation started by me asking why. How could you possibly justify holding a set of positions I described as overtly tyrannical? Dev has explained that the reason he holds these positions is because the Republicans are so evil that nothing is off the table, and overt tyranny is included within that. And look,
the Republicans are tyrannical. That's what's actually okay.
Pisco said the same thing. He said at the end, like, what? The Republicans are barbarians. Nothing's off limit for them. He used the same rhetoric at the end. He's cannier
Because
about
they've
it. He's
act-
savvier
they've
than Dev
act-
is. He's not
they've-
willing to box himself in the way Dev just did. But it's the same shit.
Well, I haven't boxed myself in at all. I've been saying this for Whick. You've known me for a while now. How, at least a year, maybe
A
longer.
little more than that, but go ahead.
I've known you for years, but I've been saying this for at least a year now. That the Republicans are just tyrannical and need to be fucking
Yes,
wiped out.
but I don't think I've heard you elucidate like what is, because I guess for me, simply because something's tyrannical, it doesn't mean that all things are now permissible to do, right? Tyranny is a spectrum, and I hate to do that, but it's true. There are different sets of tyranny. There are different levels of tyranny, and tyranny can be responded to and fixed
tyranny,
in a
but yeah.
variety of ways, depending on the situation. I'm just gonna be real with you. I 100% disagree with you in the strongest possible terms that we are in a situation where a hot war would be justified in America. We are just not anywhere. We are not even in the same solar system yet.
Yeah, and this is the thing that I mean, look, I'm not saying that I'm like necessarily the representative or that represent anyone other than me and my small community, but the idea that there would be no limiting principles, that someone asks you, what are your limiting principles? And your answer is none. That's fucking crazy. That's a crazy position. Because if there's no limiting principles, then fuck it. That actually is civil war. That's war in the streets. That's state seceding. That's Civil War 2.0. Because if we're not going to have any principles that guide or limit our behavior, then yeah, we're at the end of the line. But I certainly don't think we're there yet. And if you ask me that same question, there are many limits that I have in terms of like my ability to support the right. And some of which I've articulated here tonight. So anyway, I find that position truly wild and odd also because like even when I talk to people that I'm sure you hate, like a Rob Knorr or an Andrew Wilson or like an Orange Schreier, like they have limits on when they're going to support the right. They might not be limits that you appreciate, but they certainly have limits about what they would do and what they think is justified and what would be the end of the road for them. So I just the idea that you're giving an open-ended check to the Democrats to do literally anything because you think the right is so evil, I don't think that's a justifiable position. And I hope to God that the audience is
just to be clear,
just recoiling in horror at the fact that you said that, they should.
So just to be clear, it's not simply that because the Republicans are evil, though they're quite evil right now. It's that the Republicans are tyrants. It's the same standard that you have. When you were talking to Pisco, you were talking about tyranny. You were talking about how you thought that Pisco was coming for your country and things are never going to be the same again. That is how I feel about the Republicans. And the difference between you and I is that I'm factually correct. I am more in line with the objective reality because Republicans do in fact violate norms and laws and boundaries and the Constitution constantly. The Republicans did in fact try to steal an election. The Democrats didn't. The reason I give these two sides different weight is because the Republicans are actually worse.
Okay, but the point here is I asked Pisco and I asked you whether you would support a set of positions that was overtly tyrannical and would lock the other side out of power. You both said yes.
They're not tyrannical.
If you think
they're not tyrannical.
If you think that
you keep saying that, but it's not true. They're not tyrannical.
Well, Dev, to be totally honest with you, given that you have voiced support for political violence and open warfare, why on earth would I take your view of what is and is not tyrannical into account? You don't really seem to have a lot of respect for the norms you're trying to preserve.
Do you think that political violence and tyranny go hand in hand all the time?
Dev, that isn't remotely related to what I just said.
It is a direct response to what you just said.
Then steelman my position, please.
Just real quick. How was your country founded? It was founded on political violence.
So steelman my position, please.
So to sit here and say like, oh, because you support political violence, you'd have no idea what tyranny is. Those two things are completely unrelated. That is a completely bullshit statement to make. Okay, you can absolutely listen to me. You can absolutely be anti-tyranny to want to see tyrants removed from the White House, in fact, and still ultimately be pro-political violence, because sometimes that's what you have to do to get rid of them.
That was great. Can you steelman my position, please?
No.
All right. Well, then that probably explains why you don't understand it.
No. Go ahead. Say it again. Say it again. I will actually give it a good faith shot. Go ahead.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, can you steal my position? No, that's okay. Like I hope the audience.
I was being listen. I was being snarky. I'll give you a second chance. Say it again, and I will steal.
You'll give me a second chance. Okay, that's very generous of you, Dev. Very, very generous of you.
I'm a very generous person.
Yeah,
yes.
You are supporting a set of propositions which is so overtly tyrannical and norm violent.
Not tyrannical, by the way. Stop saying that.
Okay, let him finish. Let him finish, Dev, and then you can respond.
If the Republicans did them, and I'm not even talking about the open assassination now, but we can add that to the list since you've advocated for it. You would be aghast at how horrible and immoral they are. Your only justification for this is the Republicans are so bad, they deserve it. There is no way to have a rational conversation about civil discourse with somebody who is calling for your blood in the streets. Like, what are we supposed to talk about, Dev?
Hold on, I'm not calling for your blood.
Do you think I'm not going to vote right in the midterms?
I'm not calling to shoot Republican voters. What did you misunderstand?
Be very, very careful. Okay, come on. I do value my channel, so let's
Ryan. That was a very slick sleight of hand there. I never once said shoot all Republicans.
Pause.
I never once said no.
I asked you what your limiting principles were, and you said none.
Okay, here. I thought maybe this was baked into it.
It's not baked into it.
Then hear me out. Limiting principles in regards to the people who actually committed the crimes, not just the random schmucks and idiots who voted right wing. Those people, they're either innocent or they're ideologically captured. Some of them are going to be evil, but for the most part, they're just decent people who are wrong.
Okay, so you're pro lining all the Republican politicians against the wall and getting the firing squad out.
Well, no, to be clear, he said anyone who is, in his view, committed one of these crimes.
Okay,
which,
so
can you be specific, Dev? Not
sure,
with
sure,
people in general, but like what? Yeah,
with Republican politicians. Yeah, no, I can be specific. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, you have Republican politicians, especially ones that are currently working in the executive branch, who have helped Trump violate any of the laws and norms that he has violated, either in the first term or the second. All of those people should absolutely be charged to the maximum extent of the law, and then they should be punished to the maximum extent of the law.
Why not line them up against the wall? There's no limits, right? Why bother with the trial?
Well, because the trial is how you figure out if they did it or not.
Well, who cares?
No, you still have to be accurate.
Why?
Listen,
why? Why are you so squeamish now, brother? You haven't been squeamish.
I'm not squeamish. I'm not. No. Listen, I'm not squeamish at all. If you show me a guilty member of Trump's cabinet, absolutely throw the fucking book at him. I want everything to happen to that guy.
John Eastman. John Eastman got disbarred for the Eastman memos in his role in 2020. So John Eastman goes up against the wall, gets shot, right?
He's a traitor. He should be absolutely charged for his crimes. And then whatever the jury comes up with, whatever the judge comes up with, I am okay with.
But what if it's okay? So you're not okay with so there are more limits. It has to be legal.
Well, of course, yes. That's why I asked you about legality at the start.
Yeah, but so here's the problem with legality as a metric when you're talking about constitutional issues of this magnitude. If John Eastman's plan had been successful, it would have been legal.
No, I understand that, yes.
Laws, in fact, almost all tyranny is legal because tyrants control what the law is.
Of
right?
course,
like,
I know.
So when people get hung up on this idea of like, oh, court packing is legal, that's not the question. Of course it's legal, but tyrannical things almost always are legal. So it can't be the case that you're hung up on legality now, right, brother? Like,
I completely understand. So just so you know what I'm saying here. Do you recall, it might have been 6 months or 9 months ago, I forget exactly when, but there was the whole scandal with the seditious six. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the ones who gave the who said the shitty stuff about the military. Yeah, I recall.
Well, it wasn't the shitty stuff about the military. It was them saying that soldiers have an obligation to disobey illegal orders, which, by the way, they do. And that was
it was a shitty thing to say. We can get into it if you want to, but if you want my position, do you want my position on that?
Well, I want him to get where he's going with it, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, Trump came out on Truth Social and said treason punishable by death. And then you had a whole bunch of right-wingers running around saying, oh, well, what Trump actually means is he wants them to be, charged in a court of law and then found guilty and then sentenced to death legally. So, the Republicans have, again, already gone down this rhetorical road. I'm simply doing the same thing.
Oh, what did I do when he did that?
I don't know. You tell me.
I went on my show with Rob Knorr, which we host, where we do law and political analysis. I talked about the fact this is not a crime punishable by death. It is not treason. It's a really shitty thing to say for reasons we can get into, because it's putting soldiers' careers and livelihoods and freedom at risk for a political gain, which is fucked up. But I said, by the way, Trump was 100% wrong to say what he said. Shouldn't have said it. That his flair for that kind of destabilizing hyperbolic rhetoric is condemnable and shitty, and I fucking hate it. Right. So and by the way, Rob Knorr, partisan populist Rob Knorr, agreed with me. It is, because there are limiting principles in place, even in the right, even today. And I guess my problem with the tack you're taking today, you seem to be backing away from it, is that you took a maximalist First you said no limiting principles. Now that it has to be legal, it has to be only the Republicans, it has to be after a trial. So you've added a bunch of limiting principles. So you clearly are backing away from the idea that there's no limiting principles, right?
No, because I still expect those trials to come up with guilty verdicts. Yes.
Okay. What if it doesn't work? What if they're not guilty?
I actually do still have faith in the justice system, such that all those who are guilty, like, for example, Trump himself, will be found guilty. And all those who aren't won't be.
Okay, so then if your position, then I would take it that
do we try him before or after we pack the courts?
After, obviously.
Well, and this is, by the way, when I get to.
Well, hold on. Let's go back to what you were saying before, though, because I don't want to get off of it. Okay.
I think Whick made an important point that's worth following up on. That's what I was saying about tyranny being legal, right? You can, if you, for example, if the Republicans packed the court with, I'm going to do an extreme hyperbolic example right now, but if they broke the filibuster and packed the court with 300 of the most partisan right-wing pundits you could imagine, right? Not even lawyers, just pundits, and they just put 300 of them on the court, and then they said, you know what? Every Democrat we're going to charge with treason because they violated the First Amendment, and we don't care what someone says that's not what the First Amendment means, and they go, fuck it, let's ask the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says, yeah, it turns out that's what it means. If you pack the court, you can vitiate the concept of rule of law. It's a backdoor to destroying the entire concept of there being rule of law.
But just real quick, hold on, just real quick on that. Ryan, they're already doing that. They did it with the seditious six. They've done it with Comey. They've done it with tons. Basically anyone who is prominent enough that catches Trump's eye, that has gone against him, they are taking them, putting them in front of a court if they can, bringing charges against them, and trying to go to the most partisan judges they can find in order to get it to stick. It's not working, but they're trying that right now. They're doing it.
And are they packing the court to ensure that it will work?
They don't need to.
Yes, they do, because they're not getting convictions. Whick, if you packed the court, you don't think that you could get a conviction of Comey? If you're willing to break the filibuster and pack the court?
This is I'll say the same thing I did to Dev. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're anywhere near yet. I think that I trust in the judicial system to at least mostly go by the law.
I agree with you, Whick. I don't think we're there yet. But the reason that I keep talking about court packing as an existential threat, which I think, by the way, Whick, you agree with me on, is that in this era, we have learned, this was not the case historically, but we have learned that through the nomination process and by appointing the right kind of justices for the work, you can amend the Constitution from the bench. And if you can amend the Constitution from the bench, you can control the entirety of the legal system through a 51-49 majority in the Senate. That's all it takes. It just takes the slimmest majority, and you bypass the entire amendment process. You can do violence to the Constitution that you would need a supermajority in both houses and the ratification of the states to accomplish. And you just do it from the bench. It's a loophole in the Constitution that is dangerous and needs to be closed. What we actually need is an amendment to fix the number of justices. We're not going to get it, but that's what we need, because this is too dangerous a tool to be lying around.
I agree. Fix it to 13.
Okay, so then Trump gets 2.4?
No, in 2029.
If the Republicans win, the Republicans get 2.4?
As soon as Democrats win, they should do it.
Yeah, okay. So,
well, you said earlier that you ultimately do want your side to win, and I want my side to win. And
yeah,
the reason,
but
Dev, you're getting quieter. Can you
Oh, sorry.
get up to the mic a little bit better?
Hello, how does this sound?
They're
Is that
better. Okay.
Okay,
You were
sorry.
just talking like that.
Yeah. Sorry. But no, like I do want the Democrats to win, because the Democrats are just morally superior to the Republicans. You know, it isn't like legality is important, but it's not all just legality. There is an underlying moral truth, which when you mentioned it before, yes, that absolutely is true. But you keep saying it's tyrannical. No. What the Republicans are doing is tyrannical. The tyranny is inside the White House. All right, the tyranny is in the Republican Party. The only mechanism even capable of slowing down tyranny right now is the Democratic Party. Which is why, by the way, even though like my politics are more in line with someone like a counterpoints than it is than someone who's actually progressive. I'm not a progressive at all, but I see the Republicans for the fucking demons that they are.
So it's very funny. I kind of wonder how Whick's channel is reacting to this, because I'm not normally their favorite person, but this would be interesting to see later on.
To be clear, DGG is in my chat right now. I got rated by Destiny, so.
Oh, okay. Then I do know how it's going. DGG, good to see you. Fuck off. So, Dev, the problem.
Can you respond to his point though? Like,
well, his point being that Republicans
being like, is it tyranny if you are stopping
tyranny?
Tyranny.
Tyranny.
Is it tyranny? Sorry. Is it tyranny if you're stopping a tyrant?
He keeps saying it, but he hasn't actually pointed to anything that the Republicans are currently doing that's tyrannical. He just keeps saying that. I've asked you about specific policies that I found to be tyrannical, which, by the way, I hope are not the Democratic mainstream. I hope they're not. I called Pisco to account for it. I'm calling you to account for it, but I don't take it to be the case that this is the universal view of Democrats. Thank God. I hope I'm proven right about that. But what is it that Trump is currently doing that you find so tyrannical that it would justify what you're proposing?
Well, like I said, I already talked about all the corruption, and there's been ridiculous amounts of corruption, but you don't accept that. So I understand. I think it's absolutely tyrannical for Trump to say go after comedians that make fun of him, either in a direct or indirect way. I think it's absolutely tyrannical when Trump decided to go after lawyers and law firms who helped work on the J6 cases against him. That's fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's I think the whole seditious six stuff was completely tyrannical. I think the attempt to do the auto pen thing, which by the way completely failed in court, that was like all of these attempts, even though they're not working, the fact that the president would have the gall to attempt these are all moves toward tyranny. So but if you still support Trump as he does all these things, you are supporting a tyrant.
Okay, but now you're talking about things that, by the way, some of them I agree with you were things that I've criticized Trump for fairly heavily, but you're talking about things that are within the realm of policy disagreement. Like I thought,
it's legal, right? Yes.
Well, no.
That's why I started it with this. Yes.
No. Like
I understand.
I thought Biden's COVID policies were, quote unquote, authoritarian or executive overreach, whatever term you want to use. I thought his free speech policies were fucking awful. I think Trump's are also awful, by the way. I thought his student loan. Let me finish, and you can ask the question. I thought his student loan forgiveness was wild executive overreach. But like these are things that are the basis for political and policy disagreement, not radical overthrow of the fucking government, which is what you were suggesting earlier.
I disagree. I think that the things that Trump is touching upon are in fact leading into the realm of tyranny in a way that Biden stuff simply didn't. There is no COVID emergency to justify what Trump is doing versus what Biden did. And I honestly don't know where you're getting the Biden free speech thing.
Because
because
in berserk,
that's a whole other debate.
That's a whole other debate if we want to go down that road.
Give me the 30-second version of it.
Sure. He created, it was shortly just after disbanded, but he created a board to police quote unquote misinformation on the internet. He was accused in the case Missouri v. Biden of sweeping censorship of largely conservatives, which was then, though that case was ultimately dismissed on procedural grounds by the Supreme Court, was verified by the testimony of the CEO of Google and also of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, that in fact there was political pressure to censor conservatives. And I think that it is quite damaging to have mass censorship of people online. And in particular, by the way, if we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel, I find that concerning. By the way, I did not support the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, but the nice thing, at least with the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, is that it was done in the open to a celebrity who can afford a lawyer and knows what's happening. When small independent people get censored and they don't know why and they don't know how and they don't have the resources to do anything about it, it is actually much more dangerous from a jawboning perspective because they don't know how to fight back and have no opportunity to. So yeah, I think there was a lot of problems with Biden on free speech. But if you want to say that Trump's bad on free speech, by the way, I'll just concede that because I also think Trump's fucking terrible on free speech. But like this is a question of policy. Like these are bad policies that I oppose. That's not like the rivers run red with blood, there will be no more elections tyrant. We're like, when we're talking tyranny, we're talking about the democratic system no longer is functional. You no longer have the ability to solve the problem with your vote. That's what we're talking about, not a difference in fucking policy.
Maybe I'm just more of a libertarian than you because, like I said, I hung out in libertarian spaces for like 10 years, and I recall libertarians being very strict on the First Amendment. It's like, no, you violate this, it is revolution time. And I agreed with them for a very long time. And you know what? On some level, I still do. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know about the Missouri versus Biden case. I don't know about that.
It's a deep rabbit hole.
I do, but it's a look. While
yeah,
me and
that's
Ryan
a whole
agree
show.
on court packing, me and Ryan strongly disagree on this. So
yeah,
we can move it to another day. Yeah.
Well, just real quick, because I do know about what you're talking about when it comes to this Information Governance Board, and you do know that was not actually censorship, right?
Why not?
Because it had no power to enforce anything.
What was it going to do?
So, even though it never actually got up and running, it existed for maybe 4 months and then it was shut down. The Disinformation Governance Board basically existed so that people in the executive branch could monitor social media specifically to pick out propaganda being pushed by enemies of America. So we're talking Russia, China, Iran, these sorts of places. And then take that information and give it to law enforcement so it could be investigated as possible foreign interference. That's not the same thing as censoring American citizens.
So
now, did you bring this one up because you thought I didn't know about it? I did a deep dive into this on my channel.
I just don't think you know what jawboning is. But the point here is, and the reason, for example, like with Jimmy Kimmel, was there any actual governmental action taken that forced Jimmy Kimmel off the air? Was he directly censored by the government?
Okay. Hold on.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
No, I completely get it. You're doing the turbulent priest idea, right?
I don't know I don't know who that is. The point.
Won't someone rid me of this turbulent priest? It's
the turbulent priest phenomenon is when a leader does not directly order his followers to do an action because it might be like politically damaging to them. So they give a hint and they allow the followers to fill in the gaps and then do the thing for them.
Yeah. So the issue with what you were describing is that if you start saying that certain political speech is mis or disinformation such that we're going to report it to the police, you are going to end up having a chilling effect on the political speech through those police actions, similar to, the argument that Jimmy Kimmel was jawboned because the FCC made comments about what he said publicly. They never actually took any direct action, but that the threat of that would cause Jimmy Kimmel to be censored by his own company. So there, just because the federal government itself is not censoring directly doesn't mean it's not censorship.
So the issue, though, is that the Disinformation Governance Board was specifically looking for overseas sources on social media. They weren't looking into Americans. Do you see there's a difference here? Like here, if you understand that America has foreign enemies that are powerful, which it does, and that these enemies are going to utilize social media to destabilize America from within using propaganda, which they do, what entity should be in charge of policing that or trying to stop that? Obviously, the federal government.
Well, no offense, but being Canadian, I would expect that would be the sort of response that you would have. Yeah, the Canadian libertarian.
Who then? Who? If not the federal government of the United States, then who?
I think we've actually stumbled upon some good solutions on the private sector on this one so far. Like one of my favorite days on X. I don't know if you like this one, when they gave you the option to reveal the location of a poster. That was the best fucking week. That was so much fun. I think.
I agree. Yeah. I did a video on it, so it was really fun.
It was really fucking fun. But I think
that stopped being useful about a week in because of VPNs.
Yeah, and I think what we need to start doing is coming up with better market solutions to these problems, because they can be found and they do exist. The problem with what you're suggesting is the same problem that like all censorship has, which is that the tool is inevitably used for the evil purpose, no matter how it's phrased. And it's always for your own good, and it always ends up being used in exactly the way that you think it's going to be used, which is why it got shut down, because nobody wants the government to have that kind of power.
I mean, I don't think that's actually why it got shut down, but nonetheless, when it comes to security issues, no, you don't leave that to the free market. This is one of the ways in which I disagree with libertarians. You know, the free market solving everything is just like ANCAP brain rot. No, there are some things that the government actually has to do, and not because, yeah, government's inefficient. I get it. Taxation sucks. I get it. When it comes to security, the government has to do it. So, to be clear, your position is that
just reminding everyone, we're far and away from court packing, but discussion.
Yeah, and I'll try to rein it in. But to be clear, your position is that it would be a moral good for the government to police the internet in order to limit what people can say to each other about politics, for example. No, and I can't believe that's what you came away with. What part of that is inaccurate? I'll tell you exactly. It is a moral good for the government to not police the internet, but watch the internet, to notice if there is foreign propaganda currently being propagated in, let's say, American or Western or Anglo spaces. Okay, I mean, it's funny because the answer is definitionally yes. And then what would they do with that information? No. The answer is very different. It's very different. So because, what would they do with that information? No. Okay. Ryan, it is bad to censor Americans having open and honest debate in good faith about politics. It is good to censor foreign actors who are trying to psyop and destabilize America. Okay, so Dev, do you understand? What would they do with the information? Do you understand these are two different things? Yes, but I think you don't understand how this would play out. So what would they do with the information? Then they would have to hand it over to the actual actionable parts of the federal government. So we're talking like it'd be CIA CIA is foreign, right? Probably CIA is foreign. Yeah. And then they'd have. I don't actually know how. Let me ask you a more targeted question. Let me finish. Sure. I don't actually know how intelligence works, but there are absolutely things that the intelligence community could do with that information. Like let's say they uncover a Russian bot farm, and I can tell you, without doing the research, there's a lot of those. They find a Russian bot farm. What are they doing with that information? Well, at that point, if they can't actually access the Russian bot farm itself to shut it down, they sure can. Then they can.
Well,
if they could, they would.
Just to be clear, yes. They can sometimes. There is a big debate within the intelligence community and other such communities on whether or not bot farms and things pushing foreign propaganda onto the United States count as legal targets for kinetic strikes.
That'd actually be base as fuck. But no, what actually should happen, the next steps then would be they would approach social media. They would say, hey, listen, can you guys get rid of these accounts? Because here's the proof that we have that they're actually foreign actors that are coming in to fuck things up. And they should make that request. And then social media, hopefully, would then do it. And then if they don't, bring them to court and make them do it. Okay, so then what you're suggesting is that we do what England is doing, for example, where they attempt to enforce their speech laws on platforms like X universally. Yes, however, the difference is that the UK, sorry, the UK's speech laws are actually pretty fucking awful. I'm sure you know that as well. But these ones, they aren't.
Well, for now.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. No. No.
It always starts off with just the
yeah.
tip,
I get it. Listen,
then
I was
5 years later, you're living in the gulag, comrade.
Listen to me, okay? Because I've been in libertarian spaces for like 10 years. I understand the argument. Like, if you give government the power to do X, Y, Z, even if X, Y, Z is good, eventually they'll do something that's bad.
Yep.
I understand that completely. The issue with that libertarian position, though, is that if the government is evil, they'll do it anyway. They don't need some sort of pretense to be like, oh, well, you let us do X before, now we're going to do Y. They'll just fucking do Y. This is why libertarians, though I think morally they have a lot to offer, they're fundamentally wrong when it comes to the practical use of power. Because a tyrannical government will censor you whether or not a good government actually censors proper bad faith actors. Like the bad government will do it anyway. Like there is a moral difference between these things. It's not all just government bad.
Okay, so going back to your Jimmy Kimmel example, because you said that was an example of tyranny. If I were convinced that it was morally good to censor Jimmy Kimmel for what he said, that it was a good thing to do, then that would not be tyrannical because it's the good government doing the censoring now.
Yeah, but you'd be wrong.
About what? My morals?
Yes.
On what possible basis could you assert that I'm wrong about my morals?
Are we going to have the meta ethic moral, like objective morality conversation?
We've gone everywhere.
If you're saying well, Dev, I'm trying to figure out what your definition of tyranny is. Mine was restricting the ability of the people to govern themselves, which I think we could figure out a way to action. Yours seems to be when the government does bad things, it's tyrannical. But when they do good things, it's not tyrannical. So yeah, it does become a moral question at that point, but that's because you made it a moral question. If you had a functional definition of tyranny that didn't require a moral analysis, we could avoid it. But I don't see how we can avoid it now.
Hold on. Just to cut through everything, give me your definition of tyranny one more time. I know you just said it, but you said a lot of other things too. So hit me with it.
When a tyrannical government would be one that substantially or completely, you could have some shades of gray in there, substantially or completely removes the power of the people to govern themselves.
Right. I actually just agree with you on that.
Okay.
I will simply say, yes, Trump's doing that.
Okay.
The Republicans are doing that. They're doing it now.
But none of the examples you gave met that definition. Like First Amendment policy doesn't meet that definition. Like it just doesn't. It's not even close. So what? So if you accept the definition, then can you point to Trump's
Hold on, just real quick. Can I have a question for you, Ryan?
Sure.
With that definition of mind, would it not be tyrannical to, even if it doesn't stop the public at large from being able to govern themselves, just say, hey, we're not going to allow you to criticize us? And just making it illegal to criticize the government.
If you took it to a far enough extent, probably
that would be tyrannical. Yeah.
Like if you took it to like I think there's probably a threshold there somewhere. I would imagine. I have never thought about it that way, but probably.
Sure. So I'm just saying that the definition that you provided can't be all inclusive. There has to be more to it, because I could think of a dozen different scenarios where the people could largely govern themselves, right? But they could be imposed with restrictions in other areas of their lives, which I would consider tyrannical.
I don't think that. See, for example, like if you imagine a country where you're allowed to vote, but you're never allowed to talk about politics with anyone, I would say that you have been robbed substantially of your ability to govern yourself, because you're unable to articulate your thoughts.
Yeah. So, or if say you weren't
allowed to form political
and became
parties.
a comedian. If every time you made a joke at the government's expense, the government had a high likelihood of job owning or threatening you off the air, that would be tyrannical, no?
Because it happened once. That's tyrannical.
Oh, so it has to happen a few times? Because it has.
Well, my definition was when you substantially lose the ability to govern yourself. You think that because of what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, we substantially lost our ability to govern ourselves?
I think it, as much as not allowing criticism of the government would stifle our ability to govern ourselves, yes.
Has Jimmy Kimmel been real
Like I
stifled?
said, though, it's a spectrum,
Okay.
and I don't need it to go to
Yeah.
100% to be like,
Well,
okay, this is tyrannical.
it's a spectrum with a threshold, and that's way under the threshold.
Okay, but you understand that this is just one brick in a large wall
Sure.
of incidents regarding free speech in which you admit the Trump administration is
bad.
engaged in.
Yeah, and I think you would agree, and I read from the Declaration of Independence earlier, and the follow-up line is, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such a government.
And
Now,
that's the debate you both are having
Yeah,
right now. To be
and
clear, Dev is
that
saying
describes
we have
Trump's
reached that
government, yes.
threshold.
Well,
You are
yeah.
saying we have not.
Well,
that is the debate that is going on.
Well, there's two layers to the debate. The first was a set of policy proposals that in and of themselves would satisfy that definition, which Dev accepted, said were a good thing, and that the Democrats ought do. But if the Republicans did them, would be a vicious evil because Republicans bad. So that was the first
because they
part of the
behave
debate.
worse, yes,
And
because they actually behave
and
badly,
we're not
yes.
talking about court packing because Dev has admitted that has a one-side moral-based policy that favors only him. So the reason we're not talking about court packing is I don't know what the fuck there is to talk about. If Dev's position is I get to do tyrannical shit because it's good for me, I don't.
No, I didn't say tyrannical. Stop doing that.
Well,
Stop slipping that in because you're wrong. You're wrong.
Wait, wrong with what definition, Dev?
When you say tyrannical, no.
Wrong with which definition, Dev?
Okay,
Don't help
the one
him,
you
Whick.
provided. The one you provided.
Okay, how would it not be a severe deprivation of the power of the people to govern themselves if the Democrats appointed justices that rewrote the Constitution, packed the Senate so that the Republicans could never get power again? How would that not be a deprivation?
Because those people are still voting, are they not?
Oh, so if they vote but it doesn't matter, then it's fine. Then there's no deprivation.
Well, what do you mean vote, but it doesn't matter? So here, let's say the Republicans made the Democrats made DC a state. They made Puerto Rico a state. That added 4 new senators, and now the Democrats have this advantage in the Senate. Those people, all the people in America are still voting. The people in DC are voting. The people in Puerto Rico are voting. They're still choosing their government. In what way are they not choosing their government?
Okay, so I take it then that you have no problem with, for example, the VRA and Republicans reversing those districts because everyone there gets to vote.
What's the VRA? Sorry,
the VRA was the case that
Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
Just a
The vote-
right? Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because everyone in those, they used to get racially gerrymandered districts that would create majority minority districts. They no longer do. So, but they all still get to vote. So that's totally fine in your mind.
Well, you watched my video, right? And you saw the part that I talked about that. And
I didn't see that.
yeah,
I did not see that part.
just for my
Oh, okay.
audience's sake.
I
Explain
thought
it.
you watched
please.
it. I thought you watched it. Okay. So in the video, I mean, you said at the start you watched it, but okay, fine.
Yeah.
In the video, I said that ultimately I am a colorblind meritocratic liberal. I don't believe that any race, white or black or otherwise, has some sort of right to have a district just for them. I think that's kind of ridiculous. So even though I understand that the Voting Rights Act was put in place with the intention to stop racism, and that's still an admirable goal, they should have found a different way to do it. And I don't necessarily like the way that act was laid out.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm glad we agree on something. The VRA was a tragic mistake the way it was used, and I'm glad that it's been fixed. But the
I wouldn't go that far, but there's still problems that have to be fixed with racism, obviously, but that wasn't the way to do it.
Okay. So then in my example earlier, if the Republicans split Texas into 3, or they made the islands between Texas and Mexico a state, all the people there would still get to vote, right?
Sure, yes.
Okay. And then they would have a 6 to 8 vote lead in the Senate going forward?
They would, yes.
Okay. So not tyranny?
No, ultimately still tyrannical because of the other things the Republicans have done. No. Listen. You keep doing this, man. Like,
well, dude,
let me actually fucking answer you, okay? Because you do this thing where you completely ignore the moral difference between the Democrats and Republicans. And yes, okay. So when it comes to your definition of tyranny, and we're talking about just allowing the people to choose the government for themselves. We've already passed that point. Like I said, like an hour ago, okay? And for some reason, this didn't stick with you. But like I said an hour ago, Vance has already said he would accept false electors. That is stealing the fucking election. That means that no, under the Republicans, people do not have the ability to choose their own government, which means that it is a tyranny. So when the Republicans do XYZ, it is tyrannical because they've already done the tyranny. And when the Democrats do XYZ, it's not, because the Democrats are not forging false slates of electors. The Democrats don't have a VP that says, oh, I'm just going to accept those because it's completely fine. That's completely legitimate. There is a difference in the way the two sides behave that make it so that when the Democrats get more seats in the Supreme Court, that's actually fine.
Well, Dev,
there's a difference in how they behave.
Does the definition turn on morality or not? You keep going back and forth on this because earlier I gave you a definition. Your definition relied on morality. Then you got kind of like, oh shit, why are we doing morality? When I started probing what you mean by that, then you said you accept my definition, which did not include morality. But now you keep trying to bring morality back into it. I'm just not sure that you seem to be all over the place. Like, what definition are we using?
Fine.
If we want to use morality, we can use morality.
Just hold on.
Oh my God.
You're both talking over each other. Both of you.
Okay,
you guys have been very polite actually up until now. Let's one at a time. Dev, give us your statement.
Here, I will restate what I've said to you without bringing up morals at all, because the primary reason is that conversation is fucking cringe and annoying. I hate the philosophy wonk bullshit. Okay, that's basically just it. Tyranny, fuck, it just left my brain. Fuck me. Okay. Tyranny, the ability of people to choose their own government. Understood. We're not going to bring morals into it. The Republicans have already violated that. And they violated it by having a vice president who has said, I will accept false electors next time around. That means that voting's already off the table, which is why the Republicans are tyrannical.
First of all, can you point me to that quote? I'm taking your word for it, but I'm not familiar with it. So
I'll find it while you guys debate.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. And so then the evidence of tyranny is that J.D. Vance, and we'll find the quote, but J.D. Vance said something.
Let's see here. I also got it here. J.D. Vance would have asked the states for the fake electors' votes instead of certifying the 2020 election, as Pence did.
Can you link me where you're getting that, just so I can look at it?
Sure thing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look at the quote, but the tyranny is that J.D. Vance said something.
It's not that he said something.
Wait, hold on. No. You understand? If Trump came out and said we're not having elections anymore, I don't think that we're going to. It doesn't matter. We'll have the elections, but it doesn't matter how you vote. I'm just going to stay in here.
You're looking it up, brother?
Yeah, he's just.
Okay.
I just sent it to you. Here, I'll read it.
Look. That thing, just
I'll read
because
it.
he said something is kind of silly.
I'm trying
because if you say something that is horrific, we can make.
Wick, I'm being confronted with a statement I've never seen, and I don't know anything about. I don't know the context. I don't know the accuracy.
Now, okay?
I'd like someone to send me the link so I can actually look it up.
But I'll DM it to you. Hold on.
Sure.
Okay.
Then
I'll read it real quick. I'll read it. Let me just read
Excellent moderation, by the way, buddy.
So he said, I would have
come on.
I was.
No, you do this every time you start losing. Let me DM it.
Okay, he said, I would have asked the states to submit alternative slates of electors and let the country have the debate about what actually matters and what kind of an election that we have.
Did you guys just link me? Did you guys just link me a Democrat fundraising site?
Yes,
it has an interview with J.D. Vance in it.
Okay,
you got to click the X button.
It's Vance being interviewed.
Well, I'm doing it on my phone because I can't pull up Discord.
Oh yeah, there's an X. That's an ad. You click out of the ad and it gives you the interview.
Do you want the video? Or do you want to watch?
Give me the video and I'll play it on stream. We can watch it.
Well, it's 45 minutes.
Oh, I don't.
Get
me to the timestamp where he says it.
It's not provided in the article.
But yes, Kalakanakis asks him, "You wouldn't have certified, to be clear?" And Vance says, "I would ask the states to submit alternative slates of electors. That's what I would have done." Mm-hmm. That's the quote.
Sorry, let me read. I haven't read it yet. And I would have asked the states to the country have the debate for what actually matters and what kind of election we have. Okay. So he would have asked the states to certify, is the statement that you're making? That's the one you're pointing me
to? No. When he says this, what he's talking about is he's at okay. So you know the details of the Eastern plan, right? Like there was one version of it where the Pence would be presented with 7 false slates of electors, and then Pence would simply just declare Trump the victor. There was a second version of it where Pence would be presented with those slates, and then Pence would assert power he does not actually have, and send those slates back to the states to be recertified, which, by the way, Pence legally cannot do.
Well,
Vance is here saying
it was an open question at the time. I agree with you, but it wasn't at the time. It was an open question.
It was not an open question. No.
Well, then why did they change the law?
They changed the law because the Democrats felt they had to do something. It was largely ineffectual. This was not an open question. And we can go down this rabbit hole. We know, even though you're the lawyer, we can go down this rabbit hole, and I can show you how it's not an open question. We can do that.
Is there like a court ruling you're going to point me to?
Well, no. I would point you to the actual act that was passed, and was it 1867?
No, I mean, for the record, I agree with you. I don't think that it is correct, but when I say open question, what I mean is there is not controlling precedent on it, so you could take an aggressive position on it. That's all I'm saying. I actually agree with you that it's not the correct interpretation. I'm not arguing that it is. I'm just that when I say open question, that's all I mean. It's not decided. There's no controlling precedent.
Well, no, it was decided because you had was it Rutherford Hayes versus what was his name? Fucking Tilden? I don't recall exactly. Fuck. But basically, you had a very contested election that had real serious issues, and then the Supreme Court did in fact step in and said, okay, this needs to be fixed. And then the voting, it was called the Electoral Counting Act, that was passed to actually rectify these issues. It was the Electoral Counting Act outright said, here is what you do in this situation, It was all laid out. There was no open question here.
And the Electoral Counting Act was subsequently amended by Congress in order to clarify that the VP has a ceremonial role only, correct?
This is in 2022, was it? I don't
know. Exactly. I forgot I forgot the exact year. It was during Biden's term.
It was during Biden's term. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, so from when I looked into this last, that was largely just them reaffirming what the act already said.
Well, they passed a law that modified the act.
They were reaffirming what the act already said.
Okay,
if you actually read
the law was amended.
The text of the bill, if you read
the law was amended,
Dev, nothing was really changed.
The law was amended, Dev.
Yes, but nothing was.
And the law was amended. The law was amended to clarify that the vice president has a ceremonial role only.
Yes. However, the act previously already said this is what the vice president does. This is the vice president's role. They were restating what it already said.
So to be clear, the vice president lacks, even if JD Vance is tyrannical, which, by the way, I've said earlier that this was the thing about Trump that I hate the most and condemn the most strongly. I don't back away from that.
That strong.
But JD Vance lacks the power to do this in the next election. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying he lacks the power to do what you are suggesting, correct?
Okay, so did you actually read the Eastman memo, by the way? Did you read the original?
Yeah, I spent more time with the second one, but
it's fair. Do you remember what his logic was when he said that they should do this?
I think the logic was that you could get it down to the House in certain scenarios, and that would. I'm doing this from memory, so forgive me if I'm making a mistake. In certain scenarios, you could get it down to the House where they would have a more favorable chance of voting, and then ultimately would probably go to the court. As I recall the strategy.
The more fundamental part of it was that he said, we believe the Electoral Count Act is unconstitutional, and we are simply going to behave as if that is true and make them challenge us on it. So why wouldn't JD Vance simply say, oh, that piece of legislation that was passed in 2022, I believe that's unconstitutional, and I'm simply going to act how I like and make you challenge me on it? Because they've already used that logic once.
Okay, now let's play this out for a second. Let's say JD Vance did this, and by the way, to be clear, just because this is the sort of thing that people love to fucking, make a big deal about when we get into it, because I do lose fans or whatever they think happens when we talk about this. I completely condemn the Eastman plan. I think it is tyrannical. I think it's an awful, awful thing. It is the reason I didn't vote for Trump.
You don't condemn it enough, my friend.
Well, I don't know what more you want from me than that. But the
not supporting the Republicans.
Well, if the option is the Democrats who have no limits on what they're going to do to me, then you're not making much of a convincing case. So
hold on, just real quick. I just want to make sure that I am going to read these super chats in a second, but I want you guys to finish up this thread, and then I do need to make a little money, and then we're gonna get back to the debate. Okay, just letting everyone know.
Yeah. By the way, how long do you guys want to go? I say
I got another 30 minutes in me, maybe.
Okay, so
maybe hour.
So we should start wrapping up our thoughts. Okay, got it. One of the reasons, going back to the original topic, that court packing is so devastating is if you wanted to make the Eastman plan work, you'd have to pack the court further. The current Supreme Court would not go for the Eastman plan. They just wouldn't. But if you did pack the court a bit, you could pull it off. And that's the threat that I'm trying to alert you to. Like, if you wanted to do something overtly tyrannical, you need to remove the check of the Supreme Court, which currently, based on the way that they've ruled in numerous Trump cases, would absolutely strike that down if it went before them.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I agree with you on that one. I don't think I am. But also, more importantly,
why not?
Well, hold on. Yeah, I'll just give it to you. Let's just say the Supreme Court does in fact slap that down. I'll just give it to you. More importantly, is that you now have a Republican Party who, in this hypothetical, you have JD Vance, who's going to attempt to steal an election, and the Supreme Court's going to hopefully stop him. And for some reason, you think that that's not tyrannical enough for you to break away from the Republican Party.
No, it was tyrannical enough that I didn't vote for them when I preferred them as a candidate. I had the option of voting for the party that was going to have my preferred policies in terms of judges, in terms of DEI, in terms of equity, in terms of foreign policy. In many, many ways, I preferred the Republican platform, and I opted not to vote for them in spite of that, because this is a thing I care a lot about. What you're asking for is open-ended support going forward, which I don't think the Democrats have earned, because they appear to be coalescing around a policy of, fuck it, we can do whatever we want because the Republicans are so evil, which is hard for me to not take seriously, given that every time I fucking talk to a Democrat, that seems to be the position they take.
I mean, considering what the Republicans have tried to do, which, by the way, is tyrannical by your definition, it does seem, in fact, to be completely justifiable for the Democrats to come in and say, no, let me finish. For the Democrats to come in and be like, hey, some fuck shit just happened. We need to start investigating every single Republican elected official, every single Republican judge, every single person who worked in the executive branch. They all need to have a fucking microscope put under their fucking lives at this point, because they've all behaved so poorly that is the only thing that can be done now.
Well, I know Whick needs to make some money, so maybe I'll try to wrap up on that point, because I think it's an interesting one. Earlier, you said you thought democracy was cooked. We were in a zero-sum game. I don't think that. And because I don't think that, I didn't vote for the Republicans when it was my preference to do so, because of a limiting principle that I hold. And I continue to hope that we're going to find a way to fix these problems and end up with a better country as a result. If we are in a zero-sum game, I prefer the Republicans win. So the problem with the logic is, once you get to the zero-sum game, then all bets are off. It's blood in the fucking streets.
So you would, just to be clear, you would side with Trump in this hypothetical hot civil war?
If those were my options, yeah.
Trump or in just the Democrats?
Whick, the reason I am on the right is because I generally prefer the things the right advocates for.
I'm simply asking the question. That's all.
Yeah. If we're going to that level, then obviously
Okay.
I'm like, why would I not side with my team? The hope that I have is that there are limiting principles that would impact the way people approach these questions. And the oddity here is that I'm being morally grandstanded to by somebody who said that he has no limiting principles up front. Like, it's a fucking joke. Like, if you have no limiting principles, Dev, you can't expect the other side to have any either. If you're saying we're in the fucking apocalyptic end times, then we're in the apocalyptic end times.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is that this is a line, and that the problem with court packing is it removes any check on the system. Any limiting principle going forward can be vitiated through court packing, and you end up with what our founding fathers deeply, deeply feared, a tyranny of the majority where 51% of the population votes to beat 49% of the population with sticks. I think we can do better than that.
Okay, you know what? Here, I will, in good faith, I will walk back some of what I said because I was probably getting a bit too heated. I'll give you this, okay? America is not completely cooked. Democracy is not over. We are not, in fact, in the end times. The only way out for America, though, in its current situation, is that MAGA has to be destroyed. It's that everyone who's committed crimes in Trump's administration must be punished to the full extent of the law. If the Democrats fail to do that the next time they're in power, then America is over.
I know I was going to wrap up. Can I ask you one question? And it's
brief.
literally.
Well, I just want to be clear. The super chats has questions for both of you that you're both going to answer. But I just want to remind you, if they give you a $5 super chat, don't give them a $50 answer.
Yeah.
But that's all I want to say.
I'll
Go
try
ahead.
to myself. And I know I give Whick shit when he joins in debates he's moderating, but I mean, I feel fine with you, Whick, answering this one too, because it's just been bothering me forever. And I put out a tweet about it a long time ago when I kind of switched from centrist to right leaning. And the question that I have is like, if you believe that, if you believe MAGA is like an existential threat to the country, to the world, to world order, to all these things, why don't the Democrats pivot center? Like, why do they always need to go? Like, why don't they make concessions to people who are intrinsically more right-leaning and advocate for more right-leaning things? Why is it that the left keeps going further and further left while saying Trump bad, instead of being like, if this is an existential threat, let's talk to the normies and get the normies on board? I've been confused about this for the longest time.
Just clarify this for me. When you say pivot to the right, what do you mean specifically?
He says pivot to the center, right?
Yeah,
like, yeah, but still, yes.
Come out there and being like, you know what? Racism in the name of equity is still racism. That was fucking dumb. We're not doing it anymore. This whole thing about like trans in like specific places like highly competitive sports and jails and perhaps the military. This was a bad fucking idea. We're not doing it anymore. This idea of like not alerting parents to the fact that their kid is transitioned. That's a bad idea. We're just not fucking doing it anymore. Like there were some bad ideas that we are abandoning, and what we are gonna do is we're gonna try to capture people who are center right or center, and we're not gonna run further left. We're gonna run center, and we're gonna actually try to capture these votes. We're gonna make concessions. We're going to make some concessions to people who disagree with, some of these like democratic pillars, because MAGA is an existential threat and we need to unite against it. Like, I guess that's the part I've never understood.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. Thankfully, because I hate all that shit that you laid out too, thankfully the Democrats are actually in the process of doing that. I watched several Gavin Newsom interviews recently where he straight up said that, like, yeah, the Democrats went too far on the trans shit. That was kind of wild. The Democrats have gone too far on like the equity DEI stuff. No one cares about that stuff. People are more interested in the economy. And you know what? Awesome. I have been begging the Democrats to do this shit for like a decade. Like I said earlier, I was right deep in the anti-SJW sphere of like the mid 2010s. I was making those videos along with all my former friends, and like I get it. However, I was ultimately somebody who was a liberal who was saying for 10 years, hey, you guys are going too far left. You got to stop this shit. They're finally learning that that lesson, which is why I am much more comfortable just openly supporting them now.
Well, you know what? I didn't think we'd end on a point of agreement, but I don't know whether that's happening. But if that's happening, I will agree with you that that's a wonderful thing and will maybe save us from a bad outcome. But Whick needs to make his money. But I'm glad we found something we agree on.
Cool.
I have a feeling if we didn't talk about this, we'd agree on a lot of stuff. Because like I said,
But this is kind of like the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah. Like, I hate the woke shit in video games. I hate the fucking culture war bullshit nonsense. All that, like, fuck. I hate so much of the lefty cultural nonsense. But man, when it comes to real politics, the right is just a fucking cancer that deserves as much chemo as we can give it.
Well, so here's the weird thing for me. I've never.
You guys keep saying, "Well, I got to make a little money,"
yeah,
and then you keep yapping.
Whick,
when I don't make money,
you know, Whick, you say that, but you know, we're redistributing the wealth. It is what it is.
Well, I'm sure you are. No, it's been a good.
Look,
it's been a conversation.
Yeah, I guess I'll
last thing, and then I do. There's a lot of them.
I never understood wedge issue voters because I never was one previously, and now I am one because, like, I'm suddenly in a position where I was like, oh, Supreme Court packing is so bad that, like, you know, when I talk to like Rob, for example, and Rob's super against the conflict in Iran, and I'm very pro the conflict in Iran, I would take a fat L on that to avoid court packing every day of the week. I'm against political prosecutions. Rob's pro political prosecutions. I would take a fat L on that every day of the week to avoid court packing. Like, I've never been a wedge issue voter before. It's interesting. I never understood the experience.
That's a wild thing to say, that you'd take political prosecutions over court packing.
We can survive political prosecutions.
$10. Well,
we already have.
$10 for no fucking way. Stupid leaf is stupid leaf. The entire argument isn't about court packing. It's about trying to hijack the government in a partisan way. Ryan, looking good. Thank you for the $10. $10 from Rebecca Rowan. The onus is on Republicans to de-escalate at this point. If they're going to race to the bottom regardless, there's no virtue in Democrats letting them do it unchallenged.
I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, it's not. The question isn't whether or not Democrats should retaliate. I actually conceded that I think Democrats are entitled to retaliate in specific ways. The point I was making is that this specific type of retaliation has such an existential risk to the structure and nature of our government that you just don't want to open Pandora's box on this one. There are other ways in which I would think Democrats are, in fact, entitled to political retaliation.
Okay. $5 from Stormwolf. For Ryan, do you think that if Trump did not have the majority of the court, he would pack it or not? So if it was a 6-3 liberal to 3 conservative,
it's the question whether Trump would pack it or whether the Republicans would, because the Republicans can't break the filibuster. They keep trying, they can't do it, so they're not going to pack the court. They don't have the numbers. If the question is, would Trump like to pack the court? I think he probably would. He seemed, but the Republicans would not.
One of the arguments you kept making is that the Democrats are definitely going to, like, break the filibuster. They had control of the Senate for a while. They didn't break the filibuster. There's people on both sides of the aisle, and this is an argument I had with Pondering Politics when he was on here last. Neither party actually is going to break the filibuster. Well, I think that there are moderates on both sides who see the danger of that, and so, like, they're just, I hope I'm correct, but I don't see it happening. Well, at least in the near future.
This is why I asked Pisco, like, do you condemn and disavow X? Do you condemn and disavow Y? One of them being breaking the filibuster, because it's all fair. It's all fine and good to talk about what the Democrats will and will not do. But if you're talking to somebody who is openly advocating for them to do that thing, then that should be part of the conversation, right? Like, Deb's position was they should break the filibuster.
Your argument is that Pisco is being tyrannical because he's advocating for these things. Trump, therefore, is also tyrannical because he's absolutely advocating for these things, correct?
I don't think he's advocating for the full swath of things
he's advocated for breaking the filibuster. Mm-hmm. You've just admitted he probably wants to pat the court.
Has he advocated for packing the court?
He's advocating for the death of his political enemies when he said to hang the seditious sticks.
So right? you asked me probably to guess what's in his heart of heart, and I
don't think we need to.
Being as good faith as I could be, I said, yeah, I don't think he'd be super opposed to it. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy, but I've never seen him advocate for court packing, if that's your question.
I think that, again, that's why the hypothetical is useful, is because if he didn't have control of the Supreme Court, would he do this?
How about
And
this?
I think that
if
probably yes.
If Trump was advocating for court packing, what do you think my reaction to that would be?
No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. But I'm just saying
I mean,
that
you still ultimately want your team to win when you boil it all down, so you're not going to stop supporting it.
No, I want
you'll be like, well, it's bad that Trump packs the court. That kind of sucks. But you know what? I still want the Republicans to win. I'm not going to change anything here. So you're just going to continue on the way you are.
Okay, remember when I said $5 questions?
That would be an interesting point
answers?
if I didn't not vote for him for that exact reason previously.
Okay. Teal shirt. $5 from Benji Boy. Teal shirt. I'm assuming that's you. Ryan. The Republicans are the party of self-fulfilling prophecy. Everything they have been afraid of in the past, they did it first. Why scared?
I don't know what that means, so I don't know how to respond to it.
Well, it's $5, so.
Yeah.
$10 from the pleb. On the left and against court packing. But Ryan, why a problem with Puerto Rico becoming a state and that being tyrannical? They literally pay into the federal government yet have no representation.
There's a lot of territories that pay into the federal government and don't have representation. I don't think that's a good enough reason to make them a state. And especially, I don't think it's a good enough reason to do it for a overtly and admitted partisan purpose.
$10 from tip 35849. How can Ryan say there is no tyranny? Just a few days ago, the FBI started investigating voting rights organizations to intimidate them in my home state of Ohio. That's just one recent example.
Well, here I'm going to have to quote my esteemed colleague Rob Knorr. As the left has reminded us for 10 years, the bar for opening an investigation is very, very low, which is true. So I'm sure they cleared the very, very low bar for lawful opening of an investigation.
Okay. Give me 1 second. We both okay if Destiny jumps in?
Oh, Jesus. See, I'm blacklisted and stalked. This will be fun.
Okay. Destiny, if you want to jump backstage, you may. Okay, let me keep reading them before it gets here, and I have to stop. I don't have to stop, but here we go. $10 from Real Determinatus. Ryan, if your argument is that we'll be in trouble when the right repacks, the honest truth is that that means we are in trouble now.
That doesn't.
The only chance we have to force consequences until they stop.
I don't see.
Did my stream just go down?
Actually, how about this?
I don't know. I don't know if your stream went down. I can't see you.
Okay, are we still there, chat?
Chat, can somebody see Whick's stream? See if it's live.
Oh, we're live. Oh, we're here. Anyway,
so I actually do have another question for you then along that line. Just real quick, since I know that Destiny hopped in. You said that you watched my video. Turns out you didn't watch it. That's fine.
I watched part of it.
I understand. At the end of the video, I said the ideal solution that would not actually ruin everything. I do care about that. Despite us getting fiery, I do care about that at least somewhat, right? The ideal solution is that you have 13 Supreme Court justices, one for each circuit, and you have 6 left-leaning, 6 right-leaning, one as independent as possible. Is that a compromise that you would actually be okay with?
I don't think that that's the correct way to do it. If we wanted to do that, what I would suggest is, and I don't think it needs to be 13, but if we want 13, what you would do is what they've done in the past, where when they expanded the court, they had it in staggered sections. So you'd say you pass a constitutional amendment that says that the number is fixed at 13, and each presidential election it scales up by 1, and you let the presidents fill those seats going forward. That, like, if we wanted to scale up to 13, that would be the way I prefer to do it.
Okay, I understand.
Part of this, by the way, is that there's a little bit of a distinction between, like, the way that at least when I talk to Pisco about this, the way that he tends to view justices and the way that I tend to view justices. Like Pisco would say Justice Kennedy is a conservative justice, whereas I would say like he's a non-originalist justice, and that kind of we view him very differently. So like the import of who appointed the person is like a little bit less important to me than it seems to be to Pisco.
Okay. Destiny, welcome to the stream. What did you have to
Okay, just as a quick thing, because we keep talking about like Pandora's box, which by the way is only ever on Democrats not to open.
Hey,
Republicans open it all the
Destiny,
time.
before
which
you
is
do
great.
this, can I ask you a question?
But the question that I have is that,
no,
like, when we talk
I
about
need-
whether or
hold
not
on,
we
just real
should
quick.
pack the
Just
court.
let Destiny get it
when we
out.
talk about whether or not,
I
when
need
we
to
talk about
clarify
whether or not
I
to
need
pack
to
the
clarify
court,
something, Destiny.
it doesn't. Or when we talk about like,
am I blacklisted or are you stalking me? What's going on here, brother?
I'm stalking you and you're blacklisted.
Okay.
When we talk about
There
doing
we
the
go,
same
that's
thing that the
helpful.
Republicans do to block Supreme Court justices, it doesn't really matter if we do it one time to have like a 5-4 court. Would you be okay with them doing it 2 or 3 times in a row in exchange for what McConnell did?
I don't think the norm exists anymore. I think both sides are going to do it ad nauseum now. And I think
So you think now it's just normal that a president for the last 2 years of their term no longer gets to have a Supreme Court pick if they don't control the Senate?
In our current political environment, I don't think you're going to get a Senate nomination if you don't control the Senate in your first day. I don't think you're getting a Supreme Court nomination through. I think that norm's gone. I think that sucks, by the way, which is why, when I was asked about it on Whick's show years ago, I said I thought that fucking sucks. I thought it sucked the Republicans did that. But
Can you explain to me how? Can you explain to me? I don't care about the virtue signaling. Can you explain to me how it's not more like when you invented this meaningless phrase and called it like an institutional pillar or something that you couldn't pack the court,
a load-bearing norm,
which is totally which doesn't make any sense because I don't know how that's load-bearing and not in the Constitution. It can be changed via legislation. How is it not a load-bearing norm that the President of the United States shall appoint or nominate Supreme Court justices and then with the advice and consent of the Senate have them appointed as a Supreme Court justice? How is that not way more important than just choosing more justices? That seems like a way more load-bearing norm than just having 14 justices.
I'm confused. Why would that be more load-bearing?
Because the president explicitly in the Constitution has the right to have a Supreme Court justice nominated, heard by the Senate, and then confirmed to the Supreme Court. It's like
no, he has the right to nominate, and the Senate has the right to advise and consent or withhold consent. He only has the right to nominate.
So you think it's perfectly fine if the Senate for 4 years doesn't?
I thought it was a norms violation, which I just said, but it's perfectly
just a norms violation.
Perfectly.
Okay.
You're
this
asking,
is the reason
legal?
why I don't know if Dev backed off on it all, but this is why you can't treat these people seriously. Why there are no laws or whatever else that matters, the legal process, or whatever. For you to say that the president of the United States can just no. The obvious answer is that the Senate shall hold votes on Supreme Court nominees from the president of the United States. That's obviously true. For you to just hand wave all of that away and say, well, it's just a norm violation if for 4 years they decide not to do that, means your opinion is just deeply unserious on the matter. And it's why opinions like yours should be completely discarded when it comes to figuring out what are the load-bearing norms, the load-bearing aspects of our system.
Was it legal?
Is completely.
Was it legal?
Was what legal?
What Mitch McConnell did, was it legal?
Sure.
Okay. So since it was,
would it be legal to pass? Would it be legal to pass?
Destiny,
wait.
You've been on a fucking tirade. Let me finish my line of questioning.
Let me ask you one.
No,
would it be legal to pass legislation to pack the court?
If you're going to fucking blacklist me and stalk me,
can you just answer that question?
Okay, he said yes to that like 2 hours ago.
He already said yes. All of you.
So this is
one at a time.
This is Destiny's thing where he crashes the show and then won't answer the question.
I just told you to shut up. I told everyone to shut up. Everyone's got to shut up. We can't do this if you're all going to talk over each other. Destiny, finish your point quickly, concisely. Then let Ryan go.
I just asked if it's legal to pass legislation to pack the court. That's okay.
So it is. So if it is not illegal, then what Mitch McConnell did, if we're saying it bad, it's bad because it's a norm violation, right?
I don't agree. I think it's bad because you're contradicting like one of the express powers of the presidency is the right to have a Supreme Court justice appointed.
But he doesn't have that right. If he had that right, it would be illegal.
No.
So it's not a norm violation. What's the point you're making? No, I said it was a norm violation. You said because I called it a norm violation, I can't be trusted. Now you're caught in this position where you have to admit it is a norm violation. That's the whole fucking point. Everyone agrees it's a norm violation. I agree on that. Josiah agrees on that. Pisco agrees on that. Dev agrees on that.
I don't care what any of them agree on.
You just can't agree on that.
Not a norm violation for the Congress. It's not a norm violation for the Congress to seize from the president the ability to have a Supreme Court nominee's
brother. I said it.
Just hold on, just so I can clarify.
It contradicts.
Destiny, do you think it was unconstitutional?
I would say yes, or at the very least, it absolutely violates the spirit of the Constitution. Yes.
Communicated. Now we're on.
Okay. So since I asked you earlier, was it illegal, and you said no. How do you square it being illegal, answer no. Unconstitutional, answer yes. Which one is it?
Because legality and constitutionality aren't necessarily always at play with one another.
You think that if something violates the Constitution, that it might be legal?
Yes, of course. How do you think Supreme Court cases ultimately decide that a law is unconstitutional? It's because a law is passed at some point that is the law, and then eventually, maybe the Supreme Court hears it and it becomes unconstitutional. And then, or because they rule it unconstitutional, it becomes not the law anymore. They have to get rid of the law. So there are laws that can be in place. Well, but it is the law. Why are you laughing like you think you're cooking? Hold on. Let me see if you take our Hold on. So you're telling me, no, I don't. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not caught in any trap. You can keep saying that. Hold on. So let me hear you say this. Every single law that's passed, every single law that's passed is constitutional?
No.
Oh, so then there might be laws that are in effect that are unconstitutional, right? So a thing could be legal, but unconstitutional because the Supreme Court hasn't heard it yet, right?
Well, if it hasn't been ruled unconstitutional, Destiny, that's different. But when it is ruled unconstitutional, it is now illegal because anything that is unconstitutional is illegal. That's what unconstitutional means.
If the Supreme Court has heard it and overturned it, yes. But we can conceive of things that are both unconstitutional and legal, or things that are illegal and constitutional. It can happen, yes.
In the best possible faith, I'm going to try to apply that to what you're saying. You're saying that you thought it was unconstitutional but legal, and you said that's because of the Supreme Court hasn't ruled on it yet. So you think that if the Supreme Court were to hear a case about what Merrick Garland did, they would rule it unconstitutional?
I don't know. I'd have to look into. I don't even know what the standing could be for that case to be brought. But I don't believe that it is within the power of the Senate, when you understand the composition of our government, for the Senate to decide, no, actually, the president is not going to have a Supreme Court appointment. We're not going to allow that to happen ever.
Okay.
Do you think it would be?
Can you point me to the text in the Constitution that you think makes it unconstitutional for Mitch McConnell to do what he did? Since you're making that claim.
The whatever part says that the president shall nominate a Supreme Court appointee or whatever, and then with the advice and consent of the Senate.
He says, okay, I'll read it to you. He says, he shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors and other public ministers, councils, judges with the Supreme Court. So
yes,
you think that the Senate is obligated to give him consent?
Do you think that this reads that the Senate can indefinitely withhold consent? I would say yes. I would say yes to my answer. Would you say yes to yours? Read this? Okay. Well, we just fundamentally agree. So in your world, it would be totally okay if they have not stopped.
No,
it would be totally okay if for 30 years the Senate just never allowed the president to have another nomination.
It would be, as I said very early on, it would be constitutional and a norm violation. That was the position I took at the very beginning that you said made me untrustworthy.
What does a norm mean to you?
Well, prior to what Mitch McConnell did, there was a norm that you wouldn't hold up a vote and let
not this norm. I'm asking in general. What is a norm to you? What does that mean, a norm?
A political practice that both sides. I'm trying to come up with a definition on the fly, by the way, so I apologize if it's not totally glib. A political practice that both sides have abided by, which is not required by law.
Okay, I would say that the Senate is required constitutionally to allow the President of the United States to appoint Supreme Court justices. That has to happen. It's the function of our government. It is the check on where Supreme Court justices come from. That can't be optional. That can't just be a norm. That's crazy.
Well, okay, there's never been and there never will be a Supreme Court case ruling that for a variety of reasons, but you can take my word for it or look it up. You don't trust my legal judgment much, but I can guarantee you there is no such case and there never will be such case. But they says that he shall nominate and by and with the advice consent of the Senate shall appoint.
Yes.
So
correct.
The Senate
that doesn't say that they're allowed to never give advice or consent, right?
The Senate did not consent.
No, what do you mean? Who didn't consent?
The Senate did not consent.
No, what do you mean? It wasn't heard. It wasn't heard.
They don't have to vote no.
No, they didn't vote no. They didn't vote.
So what?
I can't. All right, I tried. Anyway, I just want to make that clear to the audience. These are not serious.
Honestly, so what?
You can read that.
Do you think
they didn't vote? They didn't even call it for a vote.
Do you think that's the first time in history that someone let an appointment lapse without voting on it?
No, it's the longest absence in the Supreme Court where it was done for reasons that were expressly partisan, that were expressly not constitutional, not understood to be part of how the government shall work.
Well, Destiny, what you're describing sounds an awful lot like a norm violation because we're
not talking about norms. Where do Supreme Court justices come from?
Because previous Senates have let judicial appointments lapse without voting on them so that they could let their guy, when he took office, get the nomination. This has happened before. The norm violation was how long it was, which is
the norm violation is a Supreme Court justice.
Let me hop in here.
I want to hear from
Let me just hop in here. So another part of the video that you didn't watch, Ryan, is that I decided to go back through every single presidency from now until Nixon, and I decided to count up how many appointees were lapsed because the Senate did not vote on them. Because it's not just the Supreme Court, it's also other justices, other functions in the executive branch, and there's been an escalating tit for tat of these appointments not being fulfilled and just not being voted on at all, whether it's yes or no. Since Nixon, the Republicans started the tit for tat. It's gone up every single presidency pretty much. Mm-hmm. It went down a little bit under Clinton, but it's largely gone up every single presidency. And the first time it was ever done with SCOTUS, where they refused to vote on a SCOTUS pick, that was Mitch McConnell. That was a new norm that was violated.
No, that's not true. You just didn't start your history early enough.
What?
Okay, so I went back to Nixon. Yes, it could have been someone much earlier than Nixon. Okay.
What is the comparable thing to McConnell?
Well, I didn't. Oh, sorry. I screwed up my video. 1 second, guys. Apologies. That's my bad.
Googling the answer.
No,
okay. Sorry.
I did. But I didn't say it was. I am looking at my notes, but I didn't say it was comparable. What I said was it has happened before, and it has. When I did the count for preparation for the modern day debate event, I counted 5 times a Supreme Court justice has lapsed without being voted on. Now, I will grant you they were much shorter periods of time than Merrick Garland. So the norm violation was that.
Which presidents, by the way?
Yeah, out of curiosity. Two questions out of curiosity because I don't know the answer. When we talk about much shorter, like what was the amount of time? We're talking a month, a year?
It's substantially shorter. Like it would be like a couple months for those. Though the compounding factor is that in most of those cases, the president withdrew the nomination and then put somebody else up. So like if you summed up the total of all the people,
so that doesn't even count then. Why would you even bring that up as an example?
Because the last one lapsed. There's a series.
Who was the last?
Hold on. I do have to get my notes because I don't remember. No, I'm talking about like in the 1850s or something. It's like I think it's President Fillmore.
Pre-antebellum
Civil War?
SCOTUS. Or not SCOTUS. Pre-antebellum America, or pre-Civil War America, I should say. Are we counting that? Like I don't know. The Civil War fundamentally changed our country in a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, when I was prepping for the debate with Pisco, like their examples of previous court packing that they were relying on came from that same time period. So
yeah, I'm not Pisco though. So.
Okay, well, no, but I'm saying
I don't know.
The crazy part about this conversation is the only thing we're talking about is whether or not what Mitch McConnell did was a norm violation. Which, by the way, I said it was.
Yeah, of course.
So what the fuck are we talking about?
No, we're talking whether it's constitutional or not.
You're saying norm violation because you know that's a meaningless phrase and it assigns no responsibility to the children that are of the Republican Party. But it's not just a norm violation. That is a power that is granted to the President of the United States. For you to pretend that it's just a norm violation for the Senate to just revoke that indefinitely and to pretend like it's okay because you want to play a cute little language game, would you be okay with the president not having any of his cabinet level officials ever had a hearing on? Would that be okay to you?
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's constitutional. There's plenty of things.
Do you think it would be constitutional if the Senate were to say, "Hey, we have a new president, and we're not going to have a hearing for any of his new cabinet members"?
There are a lot of things that are constitutional and stupid. Constitutional and good policy are not the same thing. It can be constitutional and bad.
So do you think it'd be constitutional? It would be functional. It would be constitutional to say the president, we know that there's a new president in town, but we have a Democratic Senate. We're not going to have a hearing for any of his cabinet level officials.
Yes,
not a single one.
It's constitutional, but a norm violation. It's constitutional, but bad.
would you be more likely to say it's okay if you could push a button and to have a new Democratic president and a new Democratic Senate and everything else? Would you be more okay with them blocking all of the cabinet level official appointments for 4 years, committing to doing that for the next president, the next Republican president? Or would you be okay with them passing legislation to add 4 justices to the Supreme Court?
I have to pick between those two things?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were talking about your hypo is, would I prefer, sorry, could you say it again? I lost the train.
One is where you have a Republican president and you have a Democratic controlled Senate for 4 years. And they say, you don't get we're not going to have a hearing for a single cabinet level official. No hearings for any of them. And then in the other world, the Democrats with the House and the Senate, they pass legislation to add 4 Supreme Court justices. And
then they fill those seats?
Yeah.
I would much prefer the no nominations side.
It's just absolutely brainless.
Well, the problem with court packing is once you do that type of court packing in today's day and partisan age, I don't see how you avoid a vicious cycle of like vendetta reprisals. And the vicious cycle of vendetta reprisals would be essentially the end of the rule of law and the Constitution.
Well,
I don't see a way to avoid it.
If that was the case, then it started with McConnell, and you should have had that opinion then, and with anywhere near the ferocity that you have the opinion now. Not a norm violation, not a whatever, because whatever norms you're talking about, it's less bad for the Democrats to pass a law to add 4 more justices than it was for McConnell to block.
No, I opposed it, but there's a limiting principle baked into denying advice and consent, because there's only so many.
Not.
Yeah, there's only so many times you can do it.
No. What do you mean? So many times you can do what?
Okay.
Ryan, didn't you earlier say you would be fine with it happening you wouldn't be fine with it. That would be you would expect it to just happen in perpetuity from now on?
I think that's going to be the norm going forward. Yeah.
So I mean, like, what's the limit? There is no limit to it.
No, there is a limiting principle. When I say no limiting principle, what I mean is if you get into a cycle of Supreme Court packing, one side does it, it's 13. The next side does it, it's 20. The next side does it, it's 40. Like you very quickly can get to a point where the rule of law just has no meaning anymore.
And then they amend the Constitution in order to stop it.
How they amend the Constitution?
Same way you amend any Constitution.
No.
Easily. Incredibly easily.
No. This is critical. This is the critical point. The reason that court packing is so dangerous is that amending the Constitution is really, really hard. It's
so easy. If we want to act like
Destiny,
it's very easy, bro. You're so wrong.
Let me finish the goddamn thought.
Yeah.
But court packing, if you were willing to break the filibuster, only requires a 1-vote majority in each house. So the problem is that you can amend the Constitution without having to do the rigorous process required to amend the Constitution, which requires supermajorities and ratification by the states.
Easy.
That's the problem.
How many neighborhoods are in DC? Break the filibuster. You need a simple majority, add states, just add 137 states. You've got plenty of fucking people in Congress to choose from. Amend the Constitution, lock the Supreme Court there. You can kick out the 138 neighborhoods afterwards and go back to 50 states, and boom.
Yeah, that is precisely the tyrannical approach that I chided Pisco for and chided Dev for, and I appreciate you endorsing. Because now at least I know that the other side
We're already in tyranny. What do you mean? We're already in a tyrannical government.
So,
it's just a matter of practicing the power now. We're already there, buddy. What are you talking about?
So Whick, just keep in mind that the only one advocating for limiting principles in this entire conversation, though, Whick, I know you would if you were not moderating, was me. The evil Republican.
No, you're not limiting anything. It doesn't count as limiting the principles when you're in the lead. Hold on, no. You have a 6-3 court. Of course your fucking smug asses laughing about limiting principle. You already got everything you wanted. But I guarantee you that if we were to talk about blocking enough to remake a 6-3 Democratic court and then to find a way to block it or reestablish a norm so that you can't do this type of Supreme Court shenaniganery, which is, again, a ridiculous reading of the Constitution that the Senate can just not exercise their power of advice and consent. That's ridiculous. Right, but you'd be singing a completely different tune. But of course, you're over here now like, whoa, it's limiting principle. Of course, you have a 6-3 court. You'd be okay having a 5-4.
No.
There's no principle and there's no virtue here. You're not limiting. There's no principle and no virtue.
It can't be the case that I just get yelled at in stereo and can't respond. I did advocate for a limiting principle in the hypo that you raise, which is what if the Democrats return the favor on Merrick Garland? I said I would be mad politically because I'm on the right. Of course, I don't want bad things to happen to my team, but I said it would be appropriate because that norm has been violated and there is a tit and a tat is owed. So I actually took the position that the thing you said I would never oppose, I said, actually, I kind of get why the Democrats would do that, and I think that norm was vitiated.
Wait, hold on. Us blocking a Supreme Court pick is not a tat.
The point that I'm making, Destiny,
a tit
is that
for tat
there
is
are
escalation.
But there are some escalations you don't come
the ones
back
Democrats
from.
would do.
No, the one that like, look, Bork was an escalation.
You say we don't come back. We've expanded the court before. You're just
Bork
wrong historically. You're wrong.
And
we have expanded the court.
And what has? Oh wait, I thought we weren't talking about Civil War examples, Destiny. I thought
you're
you
talking about a thing that we can't come back from.
When I brought up Civil War examples, that's crazy. No one gives a shit about Civil War examples.
You didn't even have a Civil War example.
Now suddenly, Destiny, when you want to talk about Civil War era examples, now they're good. See what I mean? It just fucking, you don't care.
Are you familiar with something? Are you familiar with a concept called stare decisis? When you say a Civil War example about a norm being violated, about maybe taking longer to hear a pick for a Supreme Court justice, you understand that carries less weight in law, or maybe you don't because you're an Alito fan and he doesn't believe in this, but you understand that that carries less weight in law than the Congress passing a law that the Supreme Court consents to and that the people of the United States seem to affirm, right? That you have totally different apexes of power.
Destiny,
what does it mean that?
Can you
what does it mean that?
What you just said? Like, I know you're
yeah,
saying.
I can right now. You want to keep filibustering? Yeah, keep filibustering. Keep filibustering. Right, yeah, it's very simple. If you're trying to compare
it to me, camera on so we can see the triangles on your head.
Keep filibustering. Keep
filibustering. Let Destiny.
Yep, keep filibustering. Filibuster for him, Whick. You're telling me that it's the same to say, well, there might have been a delay in hearing the appointment for a Supreme Court justice. That type of quote unquote norm violation or whatever should carry the same weight as passing legislation with the entire Congress and the president in order to expand the Supreme Court. That is an intellectually bankrupt position.
I think that you just made up a position and you're ascribing it to me, which does sound kind of odd, but I don't think I've said anything similar to what
you didn't understand. Said. Maybe we can run it through Claude for you. What did I just say that you didn't understand?
You said that I was drawing an equivalency between norm violations and legal processes in a way that seemed somewhat confused and I don't understand. But if you want to explain what it is.
That it was unfair for me to point to historical examples near the Civil War because I called you out for pointing to a historical example
from the Civil War. Yes.
What I'm telling you is that a historical example of a delay in appointing somebody for, you don't even know the time period, it could have been for a week, is not the same as the historical example of passing legislation to expand the Supreme Court.
Would it be helpful for me to read I found it in my notes since we were talking. I have my notes for the Pisco debate, so I do have it. I just don't know if you want to hear it or not.
Go for it.
Okay. It was a series of nominations which were withdrawn with the one that ultimately lapsed at the end. So I'll just read the two paragraphs. On February 14th, 1853, President Millard Fillmore, a Whig, nominated McCow to fill the United States Supreme Court vacancy created by the death of Justice McKinley. Fillmore had attempted to fill the vacancy twice before, but was unsuccessful. The Senate tabled the August 1852 nomination of Bradford. The January 1853 nomination of Badger was also postponed. Fillmore offered to nominate Justice Benjamin, who had been elected to the Senate for a term beginning on March 4th, 1853, but he declined the position and recommended McCow. McCow's nomination was not acted on by the Democratic-led Senate as it was late in the session, and Franklin Pierce, also a Democrat, was scheduled to succeed Fillmore as president on March 4th. So not acting on McCow's nomination would give Pierce the opportunity to submit a nomination of his own. Pierce ultimately nominated John Archibald Campbell on March 21st, and Campbell was confirmed by the Senate on March 25th. So what you had was a string of unsuccessful attempts to nominate, which were withdrawn because they were unsuccessful. And then ultimately, the nomination of McCow's nomination lapsed. The Democrats took over. They filled the seat. And I agree with you, by the way, the time period is shorter, which I said, it felt like an hour ago because talking to you is an endless eternity, but I think it was only about 15 minutes.
What was the time period between the nomination of McCow?
Shorter than McConnell, which I've already said.
Was it 12 hours or was it like 3 months or?
It looks like the McCow was a period of like a few weeks. The previous ones were, I don't quite know from this text. It doesn't quite say. I don't. But they were
just real quick.
They were
They were
withdrawn. They didn't lapse. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Dev. I want to hear from Dev.
Yeah. So it turns out that Macau was a few weeks, but also he was in extremely poor health and he died several months later.
Bro, I can't with these conservatives.
Okay. So sorry. They didn't let him
trying to get Palpatine in the Supreme Court. That was Merrick Garland, dude. Kill me.
Okay, well, if you want a virtue signal, that's fine. My point was there was there are examples of letting nominations lapse, which there are. Then my point was the time period was substantially shorter with Merrick Garland, which is what I said was a norm violation a fucking million years ago, which it was. And then you just grandstanded and filibustered about the fact that I've been proven 100% correct on. So I'm not sure what your criticism is of this point. Like, yes, these nominations have lapsed. Yes, the Merrick Garland was an escalation because the time period of letting it lapse with no vote was longer. This is what I said at the beginning of the conversation.
It's not a matter of time. It's a matter of the. Why was that funny?
Because I'm waiting for you to fill in this blank because I'm trying to figure out what it would be if not time.
What do you think I'm going to say? Take a guess.
No, I would really like
have
you to
no
say,
idea
because you have nothing. Go.
Okay, yeah, I can tell you. The problem was not a matter of time. Mm-hmm. This wasn't a matter of time. It was the Republican Senate seizing for itself the power of the President of the United States to have his Supreme Court justice appointed. That's what it was.
That's not a power that's given to this the President of the United States.
It absolutely
The President has the power to nominate. That is the power the President has, the power to nominate. And then the appointment happens subject to the advice and consent of the Senate. The Senate can reject nominees. Do you think the Senate has to confirm his nominees?
They didn't hear it.
Sure, and they didn't hear Macau either.
They failed. Who was dying in the last few weeks? It sounds like if somebody's tried to see a guy who already had a Supreme Court justice.
If they were,
this was not them. No,
if they were constitutionally required, then they would have had to do it. But they weren't constitutionally required because they're not constitutionally required. All they have to do is advise, and consent. That's it. That's all the Constitution says.
So they do have to advise and consent? Then you agree then that McConnell was acting outside of the constitutional boundaries
because the term advice and consent includes failing to give consent, which they can do.
For the people in chat listening, this is why nobody takes serious the concept of originalism either, because this idea of like, well, what do these words mean? Well, maybe when they say with the advice and consent, well, not giving any advice and consent is kind of like a kind of advice and consent, so that's like the same thing. Okay. This is why nobody takes this judicial philosophy seriously, and why you guys can invent whatever law you want at any point in time you want, because it's a ridiculous reading of the Constitution.
Are you done grandstanding?
No.
Okay.
Just to be clear, every single thing. Yeah, I will. Every single thing that he is saying also equally applies as well to the president making treaties, to the president appointing all of his cabinet level officials, to I think every other judge in the federal court. Yes. So by Ryan's logic, it's actually totally constitutional and A-OK because it's just a norm, LOL, for the Senate to completely abdicate their duty to actually allow the president to nominate and then appoint the people that he wants to these positions, and they just never want to hear it because that's just like a clever little English trick. The people that wrote, and there's no historical examples of this, by the way. You can't find any besides the guy who was apparently on death's door. There's no examples of any understanding of our Constitution working this way. Nobody's thought this in the past. It's just a LOL cutesy norm violation, and the Democrats better not go further than the one that Ryan just admitted has no limiting principle on it, because now he's saying that for 4 years it's going to be the norm to never give a Supreme Court pick, which is definitionally not a limiting principle.
Well,
so it's just ridiculous.
Destiny said a bunch of stuff, so I'll have to pick apart the lies in some order. I'll do my best to catch them all. The limiting.
I had a question here for like 15 minutes.
And Dev, I'm happy to, but I can't just be fucking yelled at and then not respond.
I understand.
The limiting principle problem that I articulated is that failing to give advice and consent is inherently limited because you can't infinitely pack the court. You can't infinitely expand it. The reprisals are limited to reprisals in kind. Court packing leads to infinite court expansion, which is the lack of limiting principle that I'm concerned about, which is fundamentally different. By my count, there have been 5 times when a nomination lapsed for Supreme Court without being voted on. I agree they were shorter than Merrick Garland, but that does not change the fact that it is a thing that has has happened before. One thing that presidents did to avoid situations
Like
where
expansion,
no,
right?
you've talked forever. Let me finish.
I haven't talked at all.
Yeah.
I haven't talked at all, brother.
Well,
I'm not Destiny.
Well, okay, but if Destiny's going to yell,
I don't even sound like the guy.
If Destiny's going to spur get points, I need to be able to answer them, and he
Sure,
made
I'm just
a lot
saying,
of points.
if you're, and I'll let you go, but if your argument is it's happened before, so is court expansion.
Yes. Because it's legal and a norm violation. You guys are not going to gaslight me out of not knowing what my point was. My point was it's legal and a norms violation. Destiny's batshit point is that it's unconstitutional to refuse advice and consent when it clearly is constitutional, and there's no Supreme Court precedent to the contrary, because Destiny's just fucking wrong. What's happening is Destiny's doing his classic move where he talks for fucking ever and then tries to gaslight people into having a different position than they held. But what I said at the beginning, which Destiny thought was fucking ludicrous, is that it's clearly constitutional for the Senate to deny advice and consent because they do it all the time. And it was a norm violation in regards to Mitch McConnell, which is just correct. That's just factually accurate about what happened. But Destiny can't admit that, because then he'd have to admit that he was wrong about something, which is fucking impossible for him.
Okay,
I do want
Ryan,
Dev to be able to answer, to ask his question. Dev, please.
Yeah, yes. So from what I understand, because we have been going for several hours, you are very afraid of the continual escalation of one side packs, the other side packs one, and then things get worse, basically.
Yeah, especially post the 14th Amendment, when the doctrine of substantive due process became a thing, and judges became much more willing to amend the Constitution from the bench, which led to the political nomination process. Sorry, the nomination process getting more political vis-a-vis Bork, but there's some other examples. And then that creates a backdoor.
Don't talk about Bork.
Okay, I will if I want, but
it's not a good example for you.
Which creates a backdoor for constitutional amendment, which is the ultimate concern.
Okay, so here, hypothetically, okay, let's say the Democrats do what I suggested. They pack the court to 13. They give themselves a majority, okay, because they've won in 2028. All right. Mm-hmm. Now let's say the 2032 election comes along, and a Republican wins. Okay, and now the Republicans have taken power again in 2032, and they're looking at a court that was packed, 5 years previously by the Democrats.
Oh my God, this is such a good question.
So, are you gonna fire up a stream? Are you gonna fire up a stream on your channel and say, "Hey, don't pack the court Republicans, because there's an escalation here. You can't do it back to them. We have to stop this right now." Will you come out and say that in 5 years' time?
I think at that point we're in the end game. No.
Oh, it's such a good question, Dev. Oh my God, that was such a good question.
That is the end game. That is the end game, Dev. I think that it's
the end game when Democrats finally hit back. Understood.
No.
Now you know why I laid out every single position that I laid out for the past 2 fucking hours. It's because you guys deserve it. You guys fucking deserve it. You need to be completely rolled over. There's no way that peace happens now.
As I said earlier, there are certain load-bearing norms. This is one of them. If that norm goes, I think we're in big, big fucking trouble. I think we're.
Why would such an important load-bearing norm not be in the Constitution? Why didn't the founding fathers write about this anywhere or talk about this at all?
Because when they wrote the Constitution, judicial review didn't exist.
So they had no concept of whether or not more people would be added to the Supreme Court or not. Why didn't any of the people amend the Constitution after Marbury v. Madison?
The Supreme Court didn't have the power to do this when they wrote the Constitution.
I understand. I know you like to repeat it, but after Marbury v. Madison, why didn't they amend the Constitution then to change this if it was so important? Most of the founding fathers still alive, right? It is a really big deal. It is very important, but the problem didn't metastasize until after the 14th and the doctrine of substantive due process started to become articulated.
I just want to make this very clear. Just
to be clear, when he says substantive due process, he's mad about the abortion thing. There's already overturned, by the way.
No, I'm actually mad. If you want to know what I'm mad about, I'm mad about Wickard v. Filburn and Social Security, but that's another topic.
What do you mean, Wick? Anyway, no, Ryan. Just to make it very, very clear for me and my audience, because I don't want to misconstrue or misinterpret what you said. Your answer to Dev's question, right, is that if the Democrats pack the court, then you are okay with the Republicans packing the court in response.
If the norm is gone, the norm is gone. What do we do at that point? The norm's gone.
Okay, so their argument is that the norm is gone because of what McConnell did.
They're wrong.
That's their whole argument.
I understand they're wrong. Like denying.
They obviously disagree with
the
you,
norm.
right?
The norm with Mitch McConnell was denial of advice and consent, not expanding the court.
And to be clear, the advice and consent, that's a thing that is way more founded in the Constitution than any absolute number of Supreme Court justices, of which is completely up to the Congress.
Wait, now you're saying that their power to use advice and consent is found in the Constitution? A few minutes ago, you said it was unconstitutional for them to wield that power. Which one is it? I
said it was unconstitutional for them to withhold that power because it is in there expressly. Yes. Welcome to the conversation, Ryan. Those are two opposite things.
So they have the power to advice and consent, but if they don't give their consent, it's unconstitutional. I don't understand your point.
Why did you just have two words in the first one and you left out one of them in the last one? It is saying that they shall advise and consent the president when he makes his nominations. If they don't ever advise or consent, then yes, I would say there's an abdication for constitutional duties in Congress.
They said no. They said you're not.
No, they didn't say no. Ryan, why do you keep saying that? Ryan, why do you keep saying they said no?
Are you saying
it's not true?
Are you saying
you're lying, Ryan? You're lying right now. You are a liar.
No, I don't call him a liar. That's not true. He might be retarded.
Are you saying that Mitch McConnell didn't say that we're not going to vote on this guy? You're not going to get your nominee? He didn't say that?
They didn't vote no.
They don't have to vote no. They just didn't give consent.
Listen. No, not giving consent is voting no. Not giving consent is voting no.
Let me lay it out. Stop.
Stop.
If I'm going to get fucking ganged up on, I'm going to at least get to talk.
When you have been getting to talk. Dev hasn't. Dev has had the least amount of talking time.
I don't give a fuck. This isn't equal.
Let Dev lay it out real quick.
Whick, if you're going to set up a gang up panel, then I'm going to talk.
I didn't set up a gang up panel. The panel was over. This is the after show.
Okay, if you're going to have a gang up panel, then I'm going to talk more than these guys.
Bring a buddy.
It's 2v1. I don't want to bring a buddy, Whick. I didn't invite Destiny on the stream. This is just the guy who stalks me. So the point that I am making, if we can fucking get to it, often the Senate refuses to fill seats in lower courts because of blue slips. Often they just refuse to fill the seats because the blue slip process means that they're only going to fill it for certain people who have certain local ties. Is that unconstitutional also?
That's not even what that means. That's not what the blue slip rule is. And no, it's not unconstitutional because the entire Senate has agreed to it. And basically the entire Senate.
And if the Senate wanted to overrule Mitch McConnell, they could have. They didn't. He had the votes. If there was extended seats that were going empty for I think they only use the blue slip rule for judges, right? If there were seats that were going, they might do it for prosecutors too. I don't know. I don't think it's for prosecutors. I think it's just judges, but I'm not positive.
If there were seats that were going empty for years or whatever at a time, then I think it would be worth revisiting that because I think that would be an abdication.
No. The question isn't whether it's worth revisiting. Is it unconstitutional for them to not?
Yeah, and that's what I said. I said it would be worth revisiting. Yes, because they would be abdicating their constitutional duty to help
Dev.
So that unconstitutional thing seems to happen a fucking lot.
His argument. I want to give him a chance to lay out his argument. Dev, lay out your argument, please.
It actually left my brain after I heard that.
That's why I don't want the filibuster because Dev. We love him, but he has a short-term memory problem. And if he doesn't get it out, it just doesn't get it out. So it's complete debate tactics to avoid dealing with his point by just keep on talking until he forgets.
Okay, Dev, write it down next time. Okay, hypothetical. Let's say that the Democrats pack the court next time, and then the Republicans come in, and then you're not going to tell them not to pack the court, okay? And then the Republicans pack the court, so now we're up to 20 justices. 2036 comes around, and Dems are in office again. Are you going to be saying the Dems need to stop packing the court? Or are you going to say, well, it's the norm now, so we're all just packing the court?
The norm's gone. What the fuck do you want for me to say? Like, if the norm's gone, the norm's gone. Now it's just political knife fights. I think that's a shitty place to be. And I think that we can avoid it. That's the whole.
Can you tell me why, for the states that have expanded their Supreme Court, some of which have happened recently, why haven't they had 500 members on their state Supreme Courts?
Well, it's happened recently would be the first thing you just said. And the question is, do you think that if the Democrats take power in those states, they're not going to try to repack them?
I don't know. I haven't seen it happen.
I mean, because it just started happening.
I usually don't because people like you come and try to beat them over the head with a set of rules you guys never play by. So,
that, like in Virginia, they were making efforts to pack their court. We'll see if they do. It looks like they might not. I don't know, but I think that I think once you start these tit for tat games, there's going to be escalation. Gerrymandering had escalation. Political prosecutions has had escalation. We live in an escalatory time. I don't see why there wouldn't be escalation. Everything else.
What do you think would happen? what do you think would happen if the Democrats did pack the court, say by 4 justices, and then in 2032, the Republicans come out and they say, hey, this is not good. Let's stop.
Well,
do you think the Democrats continue on a rampage, or do you think that would actually stop the escalatory cycle?
I don't think the cycle stops at that point. I think that once you're in it, you're in it. And we'll
engage with the hypothetical.
So Republicans can never stop it. Only Democrats can. Republicans get to infinitely escalate, and then Democrats are the ones that have to stop it.
This particular norm hasn't been violated yet. It once it gets violated, it's very, very hard to stop these cycles. You know, it just is. I've been openly arguing that the Republicans should stop doing political prosecutions. It's very, very hard to convince anybody on the right to stop doing them because there's a cycle.
Just if I may, it's because the things that the right says that they care about, they actively don't. These are all post hoc rationalizations. They're going to do whatever they can, whatever they have the power to. And I'm not talking all Republicans, but the majority of MAGA right now. I want to be very clear with what I'm saying. Majority of MAGA right now, again, everything that you were worried about Pisco doing and called tyrannical, Trump is advocating for or trying to do, or you have admitted.
But they have
the filibuster, pack the court, political prosecutions, all these things. The only limiting thing to Trump isn't principles. It's thankfully that we do have a constitution that is mostly intact. That's the limit right now. It's not a principle.
The point
it's not a principle
that I'm
right at all.
The point that I'm making, Whick, is that the terrible Republicans control the Senate and the House and the presidency. So if they had the will to do the terrible, terrible things that we are openly talking about the Democrats doing, they could just fucking do them. They have all the power
and the
right
Democrats.
now.
And the Democrats had that before, and if the terrible Democrats wanted to do that, they would have done it, but they didn't. The argument works both ways.
As a clear civics thing,
I'm talking to people who are advocating for doing the tyrannical thing. That's the problem, Whick. I'm talking to people who are saying, yes, we should do the tyrannical thing. And I'm saying, no, you shouldn't.
It's not tyranny.
So when I point to the fact that the Republicans aren't doing that thing, what I'm saying is that whatever you might think of them, they actually, as a group, seem to think the filibuster is worth preserving. They do seem
doesn't.
But hold on, wait. They don't care about the filibuster, and they would absolutely
Trump's
break the filibuster.
Out of office by the time any of this happens.
They would absolutely break the filibuster. The only reason why we're adhering to norms in whatever way we are is because Trump is too stupid to even utilize his Congress. That's why they don't want to break the filibuster. Trump is literally paralleling every part of the federal government in the White House. Trump wants to run every single thing out of the White House. Why would Republicans acquiesce to shattering the filibuster when Trump is too stupid to even champion legislation? He got his big tax cuts through. They can use budget reconciliation for funding the government, and then that's it. There's no reason for them to really break the filibuster.
They could do the thing that you suggested the Democrats should do earlier. They break Texas into like 5 or 6 states. They recognize a bunch of
stupid.
They recognize a bunch of islands as states.
Bro, these guys can't even get indictments approved by the Supreme or by a grand jury. These guys are not going to be adding states to the United States of America. Okay,
this is your moral high ground, Destiny. Your moral high. This is the moral high ground that you're landing on.
What the moral high ground is the salvation of our democracy.
Now we have
an undemocratic party that is defended by illiberal people.
Let's be clear. I'm advocating for not breaking more norms. You're advocating for breaking more norms because Republicans are bad and stupid.
They've already broken the norms. Every norm has been broken. They break the filibuster when they need to.
I have not seen the filibuster stands, and I have not seen the Supreme Court change size. How did they have 60 or whatever when Gorsuch was confirmed? Sorry, I mean, you're asking, are there targeted filibuster breaks? Yeah, there's been targeted filibuster breaks. Oh my God,
I can't. I'll lose my mind. I'm sorry. Good luck.
Thanks for calling in.
Let
me speed run these. I know we got to go, and if you have to go, I understand. I don't understand. Gang, where can you find Ryan? Where can they find you?
Am I not asking my question?
This is what Destiny does.
Not that it matters anymore. I guess you kind of
it's late, and I want to give.
This is what Destiny does. Destiny cyber stalks me from behind.
Ryan, we can't hear you.
Did you mute me?
Ryan.
Okay. Ryan,
we couldn't hear you at all. We couldn't hear you at all.
This is what Destiny does. He cyber stalks me from behind a blacklist. Makes the point that it is unconstitutional for the Senate to deny advice and consent, which no one in the universe who's a legal scholar or anyone thinks is true, gets caught on it, doubles back, claims that I'm wrong for calling a norm violation, and then tries to optics farm and leave the conversation, which is every conversation I have with this motherfucker. Then from behind the blacklist, he'll be like, oh God, that guy's bad faith. Fuck that guy. So that's
ask
every conversation with Destiny.
Okay, I did ask you if it was okay before I brought him on. Just want that on the record.
Hey, I let him call into my show, Whick, too. I'm just calling out how these conversations go.
I do like how that ended on you admitting that there's been some targeted filibuster breaking.
Yeah, but the
shit show.
Dev, have the Democrats done targeted filibuster breaks?
I actually don't know. Have they? Tell me.
Yes, actually
they have.
Okay.
But yeah, Harry Reid specifically.
Yeah, Harry Reid started that particular chain of norm violations. So, like, what are you talking about?
Oh, that's right. They did. Hold on.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Harry Reid, he put through the nuclear option because they were blocking Obama's not SCOTUS picks,
his lower
normal
court picks.
Court picks. So, in order to get around that, they broke the filibuster and made a carve out so SCOTUS would be still filibustered. Then McConnell furthered by breaking that, and that was a whole thing.
When I was looking, I remember this now, Wick. So when I was looking into it in my for my video, I found out that the number of picks, like lower level picks that the Republicans had blocked for Obama, was an unprecedented number by like double or something. But it was a crazy amount. So that was already a Republican.
No, the point isn't about like who started it. The point is that once you get into these escalatory spirals, you never get out. It just gets more compounding norm violations, which is a good reason to avoid adding new norm violations to the list.
My
I completely agree with you, but why should the cycle stop when the Democrats are taking an L rather than
because this is
taking an L?
Because this is a different norm. One of the reasons that this has been such a frustrating topic for me is that conflating the advice and consent issue with actually expanding the court is a massive conflation. They're not the same thing.
Okay.
I think they're the same bucket, in my opinion.
My issue, I'm against court packing, right, Ryan? Like I actually agree with you on this topic. I think that it would probably lead to an escalatory cycle that would destroy the institution of law in this country. It's very, very bad. We should not do this. I disagree with Dev. I disagree with Destiny. I disagree with a lot of my colleagues, unfortunately. That said, right, like your answer of, oh, well, if the Democrats do it, we should just keep doing it. That's fundamentally different, I think, than my answer, which is like, no, even though if we get the power, we should not do it, even if I would agree with them that Republicans did it first with McConnell. I think that it will be escalatory. So when we have the chance to stop it, we should. And I think it is telling that when you would have the chance to stop it, you'd be like, no, let it ride. I think there's a fundamental difference between us there.
No,
I think that's very telling. That answer.
Do you think that when the Democrats got back in power, they should have reasserted the filibuster for lower court nominees and not continued pointing?
I would love filibuster be brought back for a lot of things. I think the filibuster is a great tool, and it bothers me that so many people don't understand how that works.
I'm also a fan, for the record. The truth is that when you get into these scenarios where the norm is gone, like, do I think partisan gerrymandering is like a bad thing in the abstract? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the alternative is, but I don't like it.
Reestablish norms.
Well, it's kind of hard.
You can reestablish norms, and you should. If a norm is so load-bearing that you think it's going to destroy the country if it goes away, then yes, even if it's violated, you should reestablish it, put guardrails around it, strengthen it, not just be like, oh, they did it. We can do it.
Wick, think about what you're saying here. Both Dev and Destiny have openly advocated for a plan where they would pack the Senate to keep the Republicans out of power for a long time after the court pack so that they can just do whatever they want with the country. Both of them advocated for it.
That's what you do to tyrants, man. That's what you do to tyrants.
See, there you go. So then after the Republicans finally get back into power, after all that, you think that it would be like sane or logical to say like, oh, well, fuck it. You locked us out of power. You denied us our right to representation for all this time. I guess bygones be bygones.
At some point, yes, you have to let it end. That's why wars go on forever, is because both sides decide the other side did it. We should do it more, and we should do it more often. At some point, the side that's in power needs to say enough and reestablish normalcy, reestablish sanity. And that's what I'm always going to be on the side of.
So
honestly, I think
here.
Go ahead, Dev.
Yeah. So here's basically what I recommend. Right. Court pack. I'm neutral on the whole adding more states thing. If they want to do it, fine. But court pack, yes. All right. And then you reestablish the norms, and then the Democrats need to wield the power of the DOJ to go through an aggressive demagnification of the Republican Party.
I think that
destroy the MAGA movement completely.
The law should be held to account. I agree with that.
Yes. Make sure the Democrats stay in power for as long as possible, and then hopefully, once the Republicans have, I don't know, have a restored moral compass, then they can come back into the political process.
Okay,
but they must be locked out of it.
It would be convenient to do that once you can control what's legal and illegal. Go ahead, Whick.
Okay. Let me read these super chats really quick. I want to get through them because people have paid me good money to say things, so I will. But we're going to go real quick because I do need to go soon. It's been a fun show. $10 from Arden Pitt. With the court being willing to nullify and abolish entire sections of the Constitution because it doesn't fit their vibe, what authority can Democrats view the court as having anymore?
I don't know what example he's referring to.
VRA, I'm assuming. $5 from J Ray. I could be wrong. Yeah. J Ray to say, can Ryan explain why getting is just blood sport politics? Also, Ryan cannot use Dev as a stand-in for Pisco. They don't share the same rationale.
Well, he accepted the same position, so that seemed like a useful thing to do to explain, but I don't know what the first part of that means, and it's only $5.
Yeah. $5 from Alishness. Moral grandstanding from the right when they've been the ones begging for civil war since 2020 and fantasize about shooting intruders is insane.
Yeah, I only respond to Alishness by pointing out her trollishness.
$2 from J Ray.
Well, Tim
getting rid of the filibuster. Clarifying. Getting rid of the filibuster. That's what he means by getting rid of it. Okay, Excelsior for £10. Ooh. Dev, no offense, but you sound insane. Your optics are looking terrible right now. Where's the Dev of 2 years ago who respected liberal values? Weren't we supposed to be better than this? From Dracus.
Oh my God, Dracus. Dracus, you're wrong, as usual. Whenever I talk to you about politics, you're wrong, buddy. Listen, things have changed, all right? The political situation is not what it was 2 years ago. It's not what it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? I think the people who were like screaming in 2017 that Trump is a fascist and an authoritarian and all this, those people in 2017 were fucking insane. They were insane. And by the way, Trump's not a fascist. He's just not. But Trump is probably the worst president in America's history, by far, the most corrupt, the most authoritarian, the most tyrannical, and he does have to be stopped. He doesn't need to be a fascist to be that. And so when lots of people tell me this, Whick, Dev, you've changed. No, I haven't. Every single one of my old anti-SJW videos, I stand by them. All my critiques of the left, I stand by them. I haven't changed a single bit. The right wing has gotten so much worse in the past 5 years, I can no longer in good conscience support them.
Okay. $5 from Firearms. I would like to point out that a lot of the MAGA people I know are looking to an armed rebellion against the state. Don't harm people, but defend yourself. $2 from Rebecca Rowan, best Dev. $10 from Wamble Lamb. Ryan disregards Republicans' actions just to slam Democrats' retaliatory actions. Why should we stop at the moral boundary, but they can always get away with it? Fuck this unequal scale grandstanding.
No, I mean, I've made the point, but I'll say it again. If the thing that Destiny and Dev and Pisco advocated for happened, and by that I mean break the filibuster, pack the Senate, pack the court, like that trifecta, my honest take is that I think you'd start hearing about state secession like pretty rapidly after that point. I think that is the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I am arguing we shouldn't do that. It's wild to me that people are this committed to taking that gamble.
$5 from Real Determinatus. Flip it back to Ryan. When would political violence be acceptable, hypothetically? Because it can't be never.
I agree. I didn't say it would be never.
Okay. $10 from
When would it be, though? When would it be?
Yeah, that is the question. When?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the principles laid out in the Declaration of Independence. That it is prudent not to overthrow a government that you've had long established ties with, and that there are certain intrusions on natural rights that would be impossible.
Yeah, what would be a modern example that you'd be like, okay, time to strap up?
I think the policies that these guys have been advocating for would probably
Okay,
be
so
able
if the Democrats pack the court and the filibuster, make more states, you think it's okay to engage in political violence?
If Texas wanted to succeed at that point, I'd be like, yeah, that's probably justified.
Okay.
Hold on. I want a more direct answer, okay? If the Republicans did all the things that you just said justifies political violence, would you come out and say, okay, it's time to start attacking the government?
I didn't say that even now. I said that Texas would be justified in seceding. But if
okay, then be more direct.
But if the Republicans did the thing that I'm saying is tyrannical, which by the way they're not doing, though they have the power to, then I think New York would be justified in seceding also. And secession by
New York.
Secession, by the way, does come with the risk of violence.
Not New York, you.
Well, why is this? I am not inclined
because
to
I'm
use
debating
to
you
use
right
political
now. I'm
violence.
not debating New York.
I'm not,
I want to know when you
I
would
am not
violence.
inclined to use political violence under any of these circumstances. If that's your question.
Never. So there is no situation where you would be like, I got to get my gun and go fight in the streets.
I'm sure there is some situation. I'm just saying that I am not inclined towards political violence in these situations. I might be inclined to move to Texas when it secedes, but I would not be inclined to political violence.
Can you name a situation where you would have to start using political violence?
Sorry, I fucked up my tech. Let me think about it. Yeah, I mean, if there was a tyrannical imposition on natural rights such that the democratic process was no longer a solution to the problem, then that's when you're supposed to overthrow the government. So yeah,
right. So hold on, just wait, Whick. So Vance saying, "Hey, I'm not going to
I don't mean to be that
false
guy,
electors." Oh my fucking god, we're fucking here, boys. Let's go.
No.
Okay. What did you say, Ryan?
I am going to have to leave in the
okay. I
future,
understand.
So get your money.
Through these as quickly as possible. $10 from Foolish Philosopher. Is Ryan just incapable of arguing against Dev or what? How does he get around the founders being tyrants by his own logic? I'm just going to go through these.
Yeah, just go.
Yep. $2 from Joe the Mig. Dev is actually more dishonest than Hassan. $2 from Joe the Mig. Nah, Hassan deserves to be deported back to Turkey. $10 from John JJ. Trump obviously has no limiting principles, but Ryan just calls it being shitty. When Trump does things that violate every norm we previously had. Ryan is so bad faith, it's funny.
I mean, I'm arguing to stop violating a particular norm that people seem intent on violating, and they're arguing that we should violate the norm, and for that, I'm the bad faith, bad morals guy. But go ahead.
$5 from Real Determinatus. Rob, I know he punched you, but you can never punch him back, even if he does it again and again and again, because then he'll punch you again, Mullally.
No.
First of all, his name's not Rob. It's Ryan, okay?
If we're going to do that, I'm saying if he punches you, you can punch him back, but you shouldn't burn the countryside and salt the fields. That's the point I'm making.
Protest K for $10. If you go back and watch a coverage of Sedition 6 from Rob and Ryan, they barely condemned it. Like Ryan is trying to act like he did. This dude is a hack POS. He will lie in a debate to get a dunk.
I did condemn it, but I also thought it was a very shitty thing to say, and I explained why.
$20 from Evil Elrond. Does Mr. Mullally have any comment about the court orders being blanket ignored by CBP and ICE? Maybe play him the audio of the CBP lawyer crying to the judge that it's not her fault the government is ignoring the judge's order.
Does this chatter have any comment on Justice Jackson and Justice Sotomayor saying that a lower court should disregard a Supreme Court order because they disagreed with it? Look up DHS v. DVD.
Greg Yo says, for $5, if court packing is tyranny, would the right be justified to be violent if the Democrats pack the court? Oh, we already asked that.
Yeah, actually, what I said is that the tyrannical thing was the trifecta. Like if you kept the filibuster, then it's a lot less tyrannical. At least you got to 60.
Okay. $2 from Dakota Lucan. Mitch McTurtle already packed the court.
He did not.
$2 from Arden Pitt. Republicans delenda est. $20 from the pleb. Ryan, is your definition of tyranny is taking rights away from the people? What about Trump using the Postal Service to not deliver ballots in states that don't hand over their voter rolls? That takes votes away from citizens.
That wasn't my definition of tyranny.
$10 from Guitar Deadism. Ryan, if you openly run on court packing and you win your election, isn't that considered democracy and the will of the American people and not tyranny?
The tyranny of the majority is no less tyranny.
$5 from National Phenomenon. All Dev needs is to describe Trump's rhetoric, his executive orders, and the actions of his admin. Biden did nothing like that. We are not near pew pew time yet. True. $10 from Tip. By Ryan's definition, Ohio Republicans have been tyrants for years by gerrymandering the state and ignoring court orders to make fair maps. Is it okay for Ohioans to rebel against the Ohio GOP?
I mean, I think every state has been deeply gerrymandered at this point. I don't think that seems like a very wise prescription.
$5 from Alishness. Didn't Ryan literally say that investigating the seditious six was the right thing to do, and that would fail in D.C., so charge it elsewhere?
Oh, that sounds like trollishness.
Okay. JKL for $5. Ryan, hypothetically, if the people voted in favor of court packing, would it still be tyrannical, even though they are the ones choosing?
What I said earlier stands. What I was calling tyrannical was the combination of court packing, Senate packing, and breaking the filibuster. If you can get to 60, then you have a much better case. If you could do it through a constitutional amendment, that's an even better case. The problem is the way it's being proposed, which is overtly the tyranny of the majority, which is why they're trying to break the filibuster to do it.
Gotcha. $10 from Natural Phenomenon. Adjusting the number of seats on the SCOTUS is a power Congress has. No amounts of such would lock GOP out of power. Ryan needs to stop saying pack the Senate. That's just called winning elections.
Yeah, if you for partisan reasons change the composition of the Senate to avoid the other party getting power, you are packing the Senate. That doesn't seem controversial.
Thomas Evans for 500 yen? I don't know. So much selective outrage. Trump trying to silence Kimmel is just a laugh, but reminding soldiers that they must disobey unlawful orders is a travesty.
Okay, how much was the donation?
500 yen. So
oh shit, that is
$5.
Okay,
yeah.
that's not enough for me to give a big answer on that. The problem with that is that they were telling soldiers to do something that if the soldiers did, they would probably be court-martialed for and go to jail or lose their livelihood. It's shitty to use enlisted people as political pawns in that way.
$5 from Schwengo. Dev, I tip my chat to you for your ability to sit here and tolerate Ryan's verbal diarrhea of lies. Love you, buddy. $5 from Protest. I agree with Dev, but this dude is a shit debater. Ryan is dragging him everywhere and letting him wiggle out of shit. $10 from Artemis Fowl.
I'm too polite. It's the Canadianness.
Yeah,
it's a fatal flaw.
Dev, you stated that corruption equals tyrant. Then the Democratic Party, whose main source of the income is corruption through Act Blue and NGOs, is more tyrannical as a whole than Republicans.
No. And even if I was to accept that, which, by the way, completely false, Artemis, sorry, you're wrong. But even if I were to accept that, in terms of just raw dollars, Trump has corruptly gained for himself way more just with the fucking crypto rug pull bullshit. So no, man, Trump's on a whole different level from, like, I get it. There's corruption in Minnesota, all that shit. Yeah, fine. That sucks. Got to be dealt with. Trump is in like a completely different level. It's unprecedented what he's done.
$5 from Alishness. Democrats aren't planning on using power for tyrannical means like Republicans. We have good intentions. They have bad. That's the difference.
Trollishness.
$5 from Protest. Ryan can't name anything as bad as January 6th, by the way, from the Democrats.
The thing that they proposed today is worse.
200 yen from Thomas Evans. It's cute how Ryan used to say he was a Democrat.
I was.
$5 from John. At Ryan. Because the right takes advantage of every concession to enact tyrannical policies. $10 from Protest. Okay. Ryan is right-winger because he is a secret trans enjoyer. 200 yen for Thomas Evans. They use run left to mask their rightward lurch. $20. Ooh, from Gogo Fubik.
Wick, I'm gonna drop in like 5 as a heads up.
Yeah, I understand. I'm going through as much as I can. So thank you. I do appreciate you sticking it out. I know it's late and $20 from Gogo Fubik. Make Ryan own that Trump would absolutely pack the court, and he should explain why he thinks Republicans couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think I am opposed to it. I think Republicans are opposed to it, and I'm glad that they are. The point of the debate is whether we ought do it, and I think we ought not do it, which is the position that I've been taking. The weird part is that that's the position that I'm getting attacked for on moral grounds.
$2 from Lord of the Nerds. Invite Rob Knorr. Look, we don't have 11 hours, but if we want to do that, we got to start it at like 10 in the morning. Okay. $5 from Real Determinatus. Buy yourself a coffee, Whick. Let's strap in and see what happens. Well, thank you for the $5. These are the kinds of super chats that I appreciate. Okay. $20 from Gugu Fubik. Does Ryan feel it's okay that Mitch McConnell was able to do that legally?
No, I said it was a norm violation. Like I said, it was a norm violation like a fucking 100 times.
These are backwards in time. Okay, remember? So when he super chatted that, it was like an hour.
Just dealing with Destiny being like, you said it's a norm violation. That's fucking crazy. It's like, okay.
$5 from Lord of the Nerds. Destiny here to act as Mad Mommy for devs' utter humiliation. How sad is when you can't finish a stream without your mommy showing up? Do you want to respond, Dev?
Wow.
See your mommy?
I mean, like, actually, a lot of people have accused me of bringing him in. I didn't say a single thing to Destiny through his entire.
Yeah.
Oh no,
that was you, I think, Wick. No,
I didn't say shit to him either. He
asked you to come in.
Yeah,
he asked you to come in.
Yeah, I don't think you called Destiny in. As Destiny said, he is both blacklisting and cyber stalking me at this point. So that's kind of what it is.
Okay, $5 from JKL. The fact that Ryan hadn't heard of J.D. Vance's quote, while his whole argument is that tyranny is the worst thing, is truly embarrassing and revealing. 500 yen from Thomas Evans. Why is no court expansion, a constitutionally granted power of Congress, a load-bearing norm, but hearing presidential nominees is just a norm?
Because one has a limiting principle and the other doesn't.
$10 from Game Master. What makes Sitch and Adam a better show than Wiggs, in my mind, is that they try their hardest to avoid turning debates into 2v1s, while Whick is more than happy to facilitate it. Hope that changes. Look, at the after show, I am prioritizing content, not fairness, not equality, content. If you don't like that, that's fair, and fair enough. But a one-on-one was had. I jumped in on both sides, depending on which I agreed with. And it was a fun conversation. If you don't like that the after show gets a little ganged up on, I mean, it is what it is. $5 from Real Determinatus. Ryan, reconcile McConnell blocking a nomination is okay because it's legal, end quote. And court packing is not okay, even though it is legal, end quote.
Yeah, reconcile a position I don't have. Okay, I don't see a reason to do that.
We can't hear you again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't need to reconcile a position I don't hold.
$5 from Bangarang. The fact that any MAGA lawyer thinks they can claim credibility while defending a dude that breaks every law and norm is effing hysterical.
Sure.
$5 from C Goats. Ryan, reconcile. Withholding consent is legal and fine, and increasing the SCOTUS is legal and would usher an age of tyranny, so it's bad. End quote.
You got to actually state my position if you want me to reconcile something.
$5 from Artemis Fowl. First one was John Quincy Adams' pick in 1828 at the start of our country's founding. I'm assuming that means the one that lapsed.
Yeah, there's four or five examples of it happening. And if you count the ones that were withdrawn because they didn't want it to lapse, it's higher, but you could get into semantics on that.
Sure. $5 from Pondering Politics. Remember that McConnell told Obama none of his nominees would be given a hearing, let alone a vote. It wasn't specific for a specific nominee.
You think that if McConnell if Obama nominated Gorsuch, that would have happened?
$5 from Pondering Politics. Court expansion is constitutional.
No one has said otherwise.
$20 from Gogo Fubik. Ryan, the problem is that the good policy is removing power from the people. Republicans are ignoring the people by not doing their job.
I don't know what that means.
And in regards to McConnell not hearing the nominee pick. $2 from Scorned. He is ignoring the spirit of the Constitution. $5 from Pondering Politics. Parentheses, because he wants a conservative Supreme Court. It's not brainless at all. End parentheses.
I thought you weren't talking to me anymore. It's so funny. It's like you'll talk to me through super chats, but never a debate.
Do not denigrate anyone from giving me money to talk to anyone else. I will do that all day. We'll have that all day.
The number of venues that Josiah will use to communicate with me other than a conversation is interesting. That's all.
Look, $5 from Evil Elrond. Packing the court isn't even norm breaking. FDR did it when it was too one-sided in the 1930s. Well, he tried, or threatened to, and it was stood the test of time. So it's okay. Yeah, FDR threatened to, but he didn't ultimately pack the court.
Yeah,
$5.
He did ruin the country in the process, but that's another story.
$5 from JKL. Honest question: why is a 40 justice Supreme Court inherently ineffective?
It's not that it's ineffective. It's that the Constitution will change meaning every 4 years, which means we won't have the rule of law.
200 yen from Thomas Evans. Bork is a BS example. GOP voted against him too.
The issue isn't the vote. The issue is the norm violation in the way nominations were conducted.
Okay.
What?
$5. Yeah.
Oh my God. No, that wasn't the problem with Bork. You know, the problem with Bork is his involvement in Watergate.
No,
that's why he was rejected ultimately.
The problem with Bork is that, and there are, I would agree that you could probably find a few historic examples of this earlier, but Bork ushered in an era of strategic politicization and attack of Supreme Court nominees for their political views and asking them, very targeted questions about how they would decide particular cases, and then saying that they could not be fit, not because of the fact that they're a bad jurist, but because of how they would rule on a particular case, which was clearly done by Lawrence Tribe and Biden and other Democratic politicians, and is super well documented.
We're almost done. We're almost done.
Hold on.
No,
Nixon,
I'm not doing a whole.
I am saying my point. I am saying my fucking point. All right.
We can do Bork another time. Man. It's getting late.
Nixon ordered Bork to fire the special prosecutor looking into Watergate. Bork agreed. That's why everyone fucking hated him, because he was a corrupt piece of shit. That's why he was voted no. It's not some norm violation or whatever to vote no on a guy who's that shitty.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with back alley abortions, right?
$5 from Gogo Fubik. Destiny. Soundboard the so what Ryan gave like 10 minutes ago. Okay. $5 from Pottering Politics. There are examples of court expansion. Yep. $5 from Protest. The AI Ryan using would debate better than Ryan. Why host this tweet? I host who I want. $10 from The Justice. Why does Ryan think that PR Puerto Rico would automatically vote Dem when in reality it would be swing lean red state? Does he think Puerto Rico votes Dem because brown people vote Dem or because Daddy Trump said so?
I think it because the people who I have been debating have conceded that they are doing it for partisan gain, and I assume they know what they're talking about.
Bold of you to assume these things. $2 from Lord of the Nerds. What? Desi doesn't understand consent? What?
Shocking.
$5 from Real Determinatus. Ryan, I don't know what that's referring to. $5 from Real Determinatus. Ryan, the Democrats can't court pack. That's a bridge too far. Also, Ryan, well, if the Dems do it, the Republicans might as well retaliate. Dog, Lamau.
Well, this is what Dev was saying early on, and I agreed with. Like, if you get to the point where you're actually at the end game and people are strapping up and things are getting dark, then that's where you are. I just don't think we're there yet, but I was told by both Dev and Destiny that we are.
We are inches from the goal line here. $20 from Arden Pitt. Bork supported poll taxes, literacy tests for voting, mandated school prayer, and sterilization as a requirement for a job, while opposing free speech rights for non-political speech and privacy rights for gay conduct. $10 from Gogo Fubik. We're packing the panel, Lamau. True. Thomas Evans for 500 yen. Ryan, what would be worse for the country? Expanding the court until all U.S. citizens are on it, or refusing hearings until all justices die?
Expanding the court till all people are on it.
Thank you for the Tier 1 membership, Pro Bolex. $20 from Pottering Politics. Blue slips were removed for circuit judges in 2017 by the GOP.
Yeah.
Easily done by Senate majority. Let me finish it. Easily done by Senate majority. There's no viable way to overrule the majority leader to bring a nomination to the floor. Even Fox wrote about this at the time.
Yeah, I would love to debate Josiah about any of this, but he has a rule against debating lawyers on legal issues, except for Gen Z attorney and Desert Druid. It seems like the rule only applies to me, but it's okay. We'll wait. I'm sure Josiah, as brave as he is, will find a time to have a debate with me.
To be clear, his rule is if he debates a lawyer, there has to be another lawyer on the panel as well. Louis 1984 says, I am the Senate. Mitch McConnell 2016. $10 from Ghazal Burner. Ryan, the reason McConnell stole the seat was because it was Scalia specifically. The norm he broke was allowing a Dem to change the court's ideology. $10 from Gogo Fubik. Get him, Dev. $5 from Pottering Politics. The GOP broke the filibuster for the Supreme Court itself in 2017. Lamau. $5 from Natural Phenomenon. Ryan, just own it. Stop acting like you're the morally superior one when you're down in the dirt as well. It's only tyranny when it's your side. We've got like 3 more. $5 from Filthy Nature. Trump is not a fascist, but the people who are controlling his staff and admin clearly are. $5 from Bangarang. You're not stopping any violations of any norms, Ryan. Packing the court is legal and has been done before. $5 from J Ray. By Ryan's standard from previous debates, polls, Dev blew him out. It was 88 to 11 or 12. And $5 from Protest Whick. Don't ever be like modern day debate. It's actually good to moderate. $2 Bangarang. FDR saved this country, Ryan. $2 natural phenomenon. Court packing is worse than a violent mob. And finally, last but certainly not least, $5 from Old School to say Dev doesn't understand the Bork confirmation. His role in Watergate was an afterthought. The politics of his views ruled. I remember. I watched it live. And with that, thank you.
Yeah, I'm fucking tired as hell. I've got work tomorrow. Appreciate you moderating, Dev. Appreciate the conversation, though we disagree on everything except for 1 or 2 points. But I'm going to go say goodnight to my chat. If there's, I'm sure we'll find an occasion again.